Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Hands. We apologize for the short little intermission we've had. I think we skipped last week because I was like in the middle of traveling to like the Burbank card show and just between like timing and everything, it didn't work out. But we are back at it. Welcome, Retrospects, my friend. How you doing? Thanks again for joining me. Welcome back, everyone. But how's it going, man?
It's going good, dog. Going good. A little tired, but I'm glad that we're back. Yeah, sorry everybody that we missed, but this should be a good one, and we will be announcing the winner of the mystery pack. So stay tuned for that. What's been going on with you?
That damn thing just doesn't want to be given away. Like we've
I
tried
know.
3 times now, jeez. But this time it happened. So it's happening today. Hopefully whoever wins it will actually we'll be able to reach out to them and get their address and send it to them. But anyway, I've been good, man. Like I said, last week we were on the way to the Burbank card show. I went down that Thursday, which is usually we record on Wednesdays. We're a little behind on this one, so I'm still gonna release it today, so it'll release on Thursday. But we didn't record because I was traveling, and I ended up missing the Burbank card show. So after all that, I mean, you know how I feel about flying or whatever. I hate flying. It's like a 6 hour drive, and that day was the day that we had like the worst storm ever in California. Starting It started, like it's been going, like it's finally sunny. You can see the sun kind of coming from the windows direction out there. It's finally come out, but we got caught going down towards the end of that in that little bit of storm and just the worst traffic ever. And I missed my appointment at Beckett by like over an hour because you have to set an appointment for the GCRs or whatever you're doing there, grading anything, you got to set your appointments. And I just missed it, and there wasn't enough time in the show left over, and it would have charged like $35 a person to go in just to walk around. I was feeling pretty salty, and so we cut our losses, and it's right next to Disneyland, and we have season tickets to Disneyland, and we just were like, let's just go to Disneyland for the day, and then we went back. So it was sort of like I was licking my wounds, but I guess in the best way possible at a theme park. But it was very unfortunate. It was not what I was planning, and it was sort of a loss. So I'm going back to the Burbank card show the next time it comes back, but I'm gonna go earlier and not try to cut it so close. But that was on my. Have you ever had that happen where you just literally just drop, like it's all on you? I mean, I feel like I could have just left a day earlier, but I was trying to just not have to pay for a hotel and just like really cut it close. And I was just gonna. Have you had that happen, like where you missed a flight or you missed an appointment that was just like important, kinda, but not the biggest deal? It's just like a big sigh. You know what I mean?
Well, one time we were gonna go on like a little weekend vacation, and it was only like 4 hours away or something, but we got stuck on the freeway. There was this big accident, and they kept on like turning us around. So we were just going this big loop for like, I don't know, 2 hours. And again, this place is only 4 hours away, and we're like literally making no progress for 2 hours. And at one point, we were just kind of like, "Did we just go home?" And I was like, "No, like we're powering through. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get there." But similar sort of feeling for sure. Where I was just like, "Man, like at this point, is it even worth it?" So with card shows though, well, so I was supposed to vend at a card show this last weekend, but when I talked to the dude, he was saying that you couldn't sell non sport sealed, like non sport like packs or boxes, like anything that wasn't sports. And I think it's because in that mall where the show is taking place, there's like other TCG shops, so they like weren't trying to have competition with them or whatever. But I just bought like a bunch of those booster boxes to flip at shows and stuff, and I was like, and I'm still working on like a tablecloth and a couple other things, so I was like, I'll just vend when I get back from Hawaii because like I want to sell these Japanese boxes that I've been buying. Like I don't want to get in trouble for trying to sell, like compete with the stores or whatever. Like I'm here to sell Pokemon and TCG stuff, so that was kind of weird, but
That's
Um,
whack, bro. That is whack. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with that, but
I
like
think
I've
I
literally been in a
yeah,
store, in a TCG store, and sold boxes that they're selling in the store, and the store's
yeah,
totally fine with it because they're
it's
hosting it,
yeah.
they're
Yeah, I don't like that's the only like I didn't ask the dude because I didn't want to be rude, but I saw some other people on the Facebook group kind of ask about it, and someone had said like basically a similar thing that there's stores in the mall that like they don't want to compete with them, or which like first of all like malls are dying and like TCG shops are also dying, so I mean support your local business. I get it, but like to be honest, like most of those businesses probably didn't even have Japanese, like it's probably just English stuff, so but yeah, I don't know. I wanted to follow the rules and not get in trouble, so I'm gonna make like a table banner and get some nice cases because I don't want to wait on those Zion cases, like the new upgrade they're doing or whatever. So I'm just gonna buy some cases on Amazon. But I'm trying to like sell a bunch of bulky. Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I'm trying to sell a bunch of bulky stuff. Um, like comics. Like I have a bunch of comics and stuff. So if I can sell like sealed and comics and like plushies and bigger stuff, that's gonna take a little bit more money to ship. If I can sell that stuff in person, that'd be really nice. So
people
yeah,
like
sorry.
that kind of stuff too. I sell that kind of thing in person, and I it always does really well. And that's the kind of stuff people like to get because it's like an object, a physical object, something bigger that you can grab and hold on to. It's just a little bit more. Whereas like a card, you order it online, it makes a lot more sense just to buy it online. So I agree with you. I think that maybe one of these days maybe even this podcast, we'll have to talk a little bit about like the whole plushy atmosphere that Pokemon, because like as well as cards, I feel like Pokemon has a bunch of non-card merchandise, including like video games and other. But the one of the biggest aspects is definitely plushies, and that's like a thing in and of itself. Like it has its own market. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad that this weekend we were able to at least have a fun time. Because like the Burbank Card Show is right next to the park. We just went literally an unexpected one day at the park. And then went back. So we had a good time with it, even though we kind of had a disappointing trip down. It's sort of funny when you plan for something like for like a whole week and then it like falls through and you're like, well, I guess, and what are you gonna do? I've never missed a flight before, but I've definitely come close. So maybe that's just the type of person I am, that I don't I cut it close way too often, because like I definitely have been running onto a flight before. Like I've ran to my gate and had to, like, as they were not as they were taking off, but I've definitely cut it really close with that. But in the
Yeah,
comments, I want to know, tell me, you guys, if you've down below, if you've ever missed a flight or miss some sort of crazy, like, not a appointment, but something that's like, fun, that it's not the end of the world, but it's tell me your stories. I want to hear it.
really quick too, like to the point of selling sealed in person. Like, did people ever buy sealed from you and then open it in front of you? Like, did they open the packs like while they're at the table? Because
Yeah,
that
definitely.
is, yeah, like that is something kind of like similar to like pack breaking for people. But like, if someone buys a couple packs from you and gets like some crazy hit, that would just feel pretty cool. Like obviously, like you can't guarantee that, and it's not like you're not a good seller or a bad seller. It's gambling, right? When people, but like if you sold somebody a box and they opened it, got a really cool chase card, I feel like that would be a cool interaction. And maybe even though it shouldn't, maybe that brings them back to you in the future. You know what I mean? Like,
It's yes.
or
So, but
maybe they open it and pull their chase card, but they don't want the chase, and then they sell the chase card immediately back. They're like, "Oh, I didn't want this. This is the Charizard, and I wanted the Mew," and they
I'm
sell it
worried
back.
about that though. And don't you think it's the opposite for you? Like, if you saw someone pull the chase card, would you not buy from that person because the chases got pulled? Would it motivate you to want to buy from that person? Because I agree with you. You are totally right.
If it's gradable, I'm buying it. Like if it's gradable, I'm buying. Like I don't
No, no,
feel
I mean, like, as a customer, like, okay, so the customer buys your packs right in front of you, and they open the case hit, the SAR out of the Japanese booster box, right? Of the one that you get in the whole case. So the person next to them is like, "Oh shoot, they just got something really good." their initial response is like, I want to buy it more.
Oh,
But their
okay.
initial response
Yeah.
is wrong. Their initial response should not be, I want to buy from them. They should be like running away from you as a seller, not because you did anything, but because they saw the biggest hit get pulled. And statistically, you will not pull the biggest hit twice in a row. So you should be staying away. So, like, it happened like that at the last card show I was at with my mystery packs, right? I had 4 mystery packs that were seeded out of 28 with vintage boosters, right? And we were down to the last 2 that I was, because most people open them. So I knew there was at least 2 left, right? And so someone got one of them, and there was still quite a few left. There's one left. And so the last one was still in there. And I was hoping to God that someone didn't pull it right there in front of me, because then I would literally have to tell everyone else, because my stupid conscience, I would either have to discount the packs that I had left down to what the average was because I knew the big hit wasn't there, or I would have to tell everyone that the hit was already pulled and then just shoot myself in the foot about it because my stupid conscience. So I was hoping to God that it didn't get pulled. But at the
I think
same
in the
time,
future you gotta stop counting. Every time the vintage packs get full, you gotta stop counting. That way you have plausible
but
deniability,
at the
right?
same time, if someone pulled that, more likely than not, someone would want, and that happened at the event. Someone early on, they pulled one, and it made them want to. And luckily, there was still some left in there, but it got down to the last one, and I still had some left, and I was hoping that it didn't get pulled because there's one left, and I would have to then take all of them back and then do something like
Yeah, no,
reassess. So like
yeah,
it's one of those things that like it goes both ways, and so like at the same while I like when people open it at the booth, and I'm okay with it and I encourage it, I'd honestly rather they kind of don't, so I don't know, like you said, and so no one else knows, so like the other people who are buying, if they hit that case hit out of a booster pack, like the one alternate art out of the booster box of Evolving Skies, are you going to keep on buying into that booster box of Evolving Skies knowing that the alternate art was hit? Whereas if you didn't know, so that's why I kind of like blister packs better. That's why
yeah.
I like things that are like not seeded as much, where you have a true randomness. And so it's kind of interesting, right? That whole dynamic. And so I don't know.
Well,
Should
in in English, really quick, like I don't know what it's like now, but I feel like mid Sword and Shield era, English booster boxes didn't really have, like, they had a hit rate, like as many hits as you would get, but there was no like guaranteed max rarity that you would get per box. Is that true? Like I felt like it was kind of random there for a while. Like
English is never seeded, but there's patterns that it follows. It feels like back in Vivid Voltage, you could get like a rainbow rare, one rainbow rare in each box typically. And you get like one full art, one gold card, but you don't usually
a
get
couple
2 gold
amazing.
cards or
Yeah,
2 rainbow rares, but it's not like seeded that way. It's just that's
yeah.
how it
See,
randomly works out.
and that's why it's kind of nice about Japanese, because you get the guarantee, like even in the mainline sets that have the ARs, I think you get like 3 ARs per box, 2 to 3 ARs per box, which aren't like super valuable, but like they're hits, right? Like they're full art hits. And then you get like X amount of like the SRs and stuff like that. So if you open a box of shiny treasure, like you're gonna hit something. You might not hit Charizard, Gardevoir, or Mew, but like you're gonna hit something. You know what I mean? And like you're gonna get a few baby shinies out of it too. So like it doesn't feel as bad maybe as like a complete dud box. But I totally get what you're saying about like the pack odds, and hopefully I don't have like 5 people at my table. Someone buys a box, opens it, hits the Charizard, and then the other people are like, like that would kind of suck. So, um, but
It doesn't work that way. Human psychology doesn't work that way. Like I said, someone hit one of the packs out of the vintage packs out of one of my mystery packs at the last event, and then people were next to him. They saw them hit that, and they're like, "Ooh, I want one now!" And they came over and bought some. The
okay,
second
yeah,
person did
yeah.
not hit. They didn't, but it
Well,
was like it
it's
attracted them.
yeah, it's kind of like when you watch YouTube, and again, like I imagine, because I can't really remember when we were watching stuff like Leonhard and Twice Like Jake and Pokemon, like when the hobby was popping off 2021. Like I don't really remember seeing bad openings. Like there was no like absolutely like they always hit something. They might not have hit like the mass chase cards, so maybe they like got rid of the takes where they didn't hit stuff or whatever. But
Bro,
when you
that's when Pikachu was $1,000 in a PSA 10. Literally,
yeah,
commons were hitting. That's because every
yeah,
single card in every pack, even the commons, were worth grading. That's what you're remembering.
yeah, but
PokeRev would put in a common into like a card saver in the most delicate way. In his like the way PokeRev put cards
yeah,
into card savers was
yeah, he's good
almost
at
sensual. How he did it back in the
it.
day. It was almost it was literally like you would watch it, you'd be like, "Hey, yo, what?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
what? How
he was.
you touching the card like that? You're putting it into the thing. Oh wow! Like, no wonder he's getting the
I've
PSA
never
10.
been able to recreate that. Like I still don't understand how he does it. Like I slide it in with the tip, and then like when it gets down to the edge, I like smack it on the table to get it to
It's
slide. I
not
don't
as
know.
smooth and silky and buttery
No,
as like when
no, he's
PokeRev does it. Like
yeah,
that
no,
guy is a master at
he's
card savoring. Like you don't
yeah.
have to tell me that he has graded a million cards. You just have to show me how he's put the sleeves into the card savers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he's the Michael Jordan of pack breaking for sure. But the point I was trying to make is like when you were watching these videos, or at least when I was watching these videos when I was like new and opening stuff for fun and all that kind of stuff. When I saw like a YouTuber like get a hit, I was like, "Ooh, this set has good pull rates." You know what I mean? It wasn't like, "Oh, well, he hit the chart or the alt art or whatever." So like, I probably shouldn't go out and buy one because that's one less alt art that's out there. Like when you saw people hit stuff, it made you more like, ooh, yeah, like this set's juiced. I want to go open it, which is stupid, but I don't know. It's just funny how like all that psychology works. And
Well,
I was like brand new to
it's
all
that
that.
way when you're seeing it online, but when you're actually buying into the same box, I did. Maybe I'm a cynic, but like I totally would play those odds in my head. Like if I was buying into pack breaks, I would buy into a pack break only if I saw that the hit wasn't hit yet. And I would start thinking like, okay, it's getting closer and closer. So now I want to try to jump in. Whereas I know that some people, when they're going to pack breaks, they want to be the first one in and they'll pay a premium to be the first pack because it's a guarantee that you have a chance at hitting it until it gets hit. Whereas for me, I don't look at it the same way. I look at it like, yeah, it's a guarantee until it gets hit, but I'd rather make those odds a little better for myself, better and better, and play the toe the line there. So I'm curious how other people feel about that too, because I definitely think that people are different the way that they look at that kind of thing.
Well, similar to how you think, I want to say that's what Rock used to do. Rock Pokemon, like he was super into Weiss and stuff, and like with the Weiss pull rates, I want to say it's like 2 SPs per case, and the cases are like 16 booster boxes. So he would go into these case breaks on like Whatnot and stuff, and wait and see if the SPs were getting pulled, and if like 12 boxes out of the 16 were ripped and no SPs were pulled, he would buy the last 4 boxes knowing he's guaranteed those 2 SPs, and the value of those cards raw would be like more than what he would. So he did like a similar thing there, like waiting to see what the pull rates were and what other people were hitting and stuff. And I think he did pretty well doing that. So it's interesting. Like it's fun. I don't know. Like I'm every time now that like I'm like, oh, maybe I should open some packs. I'm just like, no, like what's gonna happen. Just don't do it. It's fun though. Like it really does hit. Like I can see why it never gets old for people, but it's just setting money on fire. So and then when it isn't, then you're like, oh my god, like I got the hot hands. I need to open more. You know what I mean? Like when you pull the chase card, then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna open more now because I'm getting like it's so. Anyways, yeah, moving on. I guess we beat that to death, but
Yeah, Lorcana is moving into its third set now. It's coming out this Friday.
oh, the
Before we move too
Inklands.
much into the Pokemons and into the Crossfire, but I just saw my Disney shirt and it made me think of the new Lorcana set that's coming out. Holding strong, man. Sets pre-ordering for 125 bucks a booster box. And I mean that's like lower than MSRP, but you consider where Pokemon and everything sits right at the release, like Temporal Forces, that's like 105 bucks for a booster box. That's well below MSRP. And so, yeah, sets are looking pretty good. The enchanteds are looking cool. It's looking like a pretty good situation here with
It's
still.
cheaper because there's no waifus. The chase card is Jafar and Milo from Atlantis. Atlantis was fire. I love that movie as
Wait,
a kid, but
those are the chase cards in the new set?
yeah, I sorted by high to low on
It's not
TCG.
morph. It's not the morph card.
Uh, I don't see I don't see a morph. I don't
Okay,
even know.
so there's an enchant. So, do you know Treasure Planet? Do you know that IP, the Disney movie at all?
Yeah, I saw like I kind of
Okay,
remember
it's a very
that.
obscure one, right? Nobody really knows about it. There's a character in Treasure Planet that's like the little parrot character to the pirate, the space pirate. He's
Yeah,
like a little blob
okay.
thing. His name's Morph. They made him a god tier level card, and then they made an alternate art version of him. He is so good in the game. If he's not currently going to be in the meta, used in every deck in the future and moving forward, he's going to be someone. I'm going to go and invest in Morph. I think if he's like one of the lower tier enchanteds, because he is basically what he is as a card mechanic is he can be played in almost any deck. He's a very he's a color. He's a certain color, but he's a very low cost card, and he can morph or transform onto or shift, which is the mechanic, onto basically any other card. So he can become any other character, and he's a really easy to use. Like it's just a good card. So I'm surprised he's not the number one chase because if it's not a waifu, I thought it'd be a playable card.
Yeah, there's a collection box too, and it's got Tinkerbell and Stitch, which is kind of weird. But like, dude, the Stitch cards, like if I was gonna collect Orcana Dog, like this Stitch, some of the Stitch cards are fire. Like he's like wearing a little Hawaiian shirt and stuff. Like some of the Stitch cards are pretty cool. I'm not mad at them.
Okay,
So
Stitch as a character is usually one of the most popular. Besides Mickey, I believe he's the most popular Disney character for people to collect. Like when you go to the parks, you see a ton of awesome Stitch like merch. You see a bunch of people wearing Stitch. He's a very popular character to enjoy. You see a lot of people who say he's their favorite character. Like he's one of my favorite characters. I love Stitch. Like he's
yeah,
amazing.
no, it's a good movie for sure. It's they're coming with they're taking the Pokemon route. They're doing like the regular promos, and then they're doing two jumbos behind it,
Hmm.
which I've never been like a huge fan of jump. Like there's some cool ones, but like I don't know, jumbos are not quite my thing. Are you gonna try grading them?
I already have. I have the jumbos and I have the regulars out at PSA right now, so we'll see how they grade. I don't know.
It
Um,
sucks that jumbo is so expensive. It's still like $40 a card, which is nuts. Like I get they have to have a bigger holder and stuff, but it's like
I don't think that they are. Not these ones. These ones I got charged, I believe, $15 at.
no way.
I believe so. Yeah, I think they're like tall boys or something. They're not quite jumbos.
Huh.
I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure. Yeah, because like my order got held up, and that's why it took so long for it. And I thought I didn't know what the hell is going on. I emailed them, and they just took forever to get back to me. But it was something to do with those jumbos. And I looked at the invoice, and I'm pretty sure it was only the $15 normal charge, and it's like the tall boy or something. I think charge.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. It
I don't
must be
grade
like
sports cards, so I'm not sure what the level is, but it's like a different level that's not typical TCG. That may
okay.
change though. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I wonder what the measurements on tall boy is versus just like regular jumbo cards. The jumbo must be like obviously bigger. I would imagine. I
They
didn't know
are.
that.
They're definitely bigger. Like the jumbo cards are twice to three times the size of the Lorcana big cards. So the Lorcana jumbo cards are kind of
Okay.
like
They're
two
not like
times
the
the size.
Pokemon
It's
jumbos.
not like the Pokemon ones at
Okay.
all. No, they're much smaller, which is really weird. I like here, like I'll show you. I'll show it again. Like compared to these are the same. So normal
Okay.
size
Yeah,
card,
yeah, yeah. It's not. It's like twice the size, maybe.
barely twice the size, barely. So yeah, I think it's considered a tall boy, not a jumbo card, which is how. I mean, I got away with sending them in my bulk submission. So
Yeah. Well, I'm on PSA right now, and under just regular trading cards versus oversized trading cards, standard size memorabilia and tall boy. So I guess like technically you could send that through TCG bulk, which
and that's what
is
I did. Yeah, that's what I did.
yeah.
So
What are the? Let me see. I'm just interested what the measurements on like the tall boy are. But anyways, we can keep on going.
yeah, it's kind of funny because like I never thought that I would enjoy grading like I do, but grading has now become my element in the hobby of like having fun and like kind of gambling to a certain extent. Because like I'll send things like those jumbos that I have no idea about, that just I want to see and I'm curious on, and yeah, and that's kind of what it is. So I'll never open packs, but I will apparently send tall boy jumbo Lorcana cards in to get graded without knowing about it. And so it's just different for different people. But
Yeah.
we'll
So
move
it
on.
says real quick. It says
Yeah.
3.5 or 3.5 to 5 1/8. I'm pretty sure is what the size for. So yeah, not quite a jumbo, but
I think
yeah,
that's within the. It falls within the that size of card. That's about
yeah,
the size
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah, for sure. All right. Crossfire. What's up? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I kind of different style of Crossfire this week. It was in, I was feeling a little philosophical, I think, about this one. So we may go a totally different direction than what you're used to. Sometimes
Okay.
it's Pokemon, sometimes it's food. This time it's a little more life. So let's try it. What was I? What kind of a headspace was I ended to do this question? But we'll see, huh? So here's what I was thinking, Nick. I heard a quote, and I always really liked this quote, and it got me thinking about the crossfire and what I wanted to ask you. But here's a quote started off, and then I'll ask my crossfire. But the quote is this: "Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times." And I guess that it leads into my question for you for the crossfire, though, is which type of those men would you like to be? Would you rather live a hard life, or would you rather have one of those easier roads spoon fed to you, and then lead into one of the harder lives? So, where in that cycle do you see yourself, or where would you like to be? I guess is the crossfire.
Well, I think most people would want to have a relatively easy life, but I wouldn't want to be the cause of society's downfall. I don't know. I think like there's that whole thing with like generations and I don't want to get too political, but like every older generation is like, oh, the next generation's too soft. And I definitely feel that way about certain things in the whole like Gen Z space for sure. I definitely like I can't believe people are getting offended at this cancel culture, like all that kind of stuff is super weird and negative to me. But I think like I don't want to try to sound like too like, oh, I want to roll my eyes or whatever. But like I think it feels better when like you work hard and you get the payoff. Like for instance, I play like probably the only video game I really have time to play anymore is Call of Duty Warzone. It's like a battle royale basically. It's like Call of Duty version of Fortnite, and uh, there for a long time, maybe like a year and a half ago or so, Activision was having like issues with cheaters. Like people would have aimbot on and like all this like crazy stuff to where like they, as soon as like you dropped in, the computer would like direct their gun directly at you and they'd like shoot you before you ever even got to the ground. Crazy stuff like that. And for a while, like it was kind of unplayable for like a month there. It was like pretty unplayable. People were like, there's cheaters in every lobby, blah, blah, blah. And I never understood, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm such a saint or anything like that, but like I never understood in any game really, like it takes the fun out of the game. Like if you don't have to aim at people, if you don't have to like strategize, and you just automatically are guaranteed to win every time, like that doesn't sound fun to me. the whole reason the battle royale is fun is because it's hard. And when you win and you're the last team standing, it's like, yeah, like it feels good. But if you just had aimbot on the whole time and you could be like doing your taxes with one hand and just holding the trigger with the other, like that would, I don't know, dude, that would be a bummer, right? Like
Isn't the point to win?
the point the point is the point is to win, but like now in life, like there's things where I've definitely like, worked harder than I needed to, and like I'm definitely a fan of work smarter, not harder. Like winning at life, whether that be like financially or happiness or whatever, like everybody's got different goals there. um but I don't necessarily like want to eat, because I also enjoyed learning too. Like I enjoy, especially like in business, when I have like a big light bulb moment, like, oh, that could be a new part of my business model, or like, oh, this is some huge unlock, or some, I optimize some process. Like that feels good, but that doesn't come without, or that doesn't come unless there's some other side of it, which is the grind. And again, like I don't want to be responsible for society's downfall either, right? Like I'd rather make good times for other people. I'd rather like work super hard in this life so that like my kids and their kids can be like set up for forever and build like a dynasty, or whatever you want to call it, like a legacy for like my family years in the future. Like it doesn't need to be about me. I don't know, man. Like and even like with taking vacations, like this is the first vacation I've taken in a long time. So and it's probably going to be hard for me to enjoy it, at least, like, or it was for a while. Now I've kind of settled into the idea that like, okay, you're taking a week off, you're going to have a good time, you're going to eat some good food, go do some fun stuff in Hawaii. But I'm just like, all I could think about when we first booked it was like, oh, like it's going to take away from my business, and it's going to take away from my school and all these other things. And yeah, I don't know. Kind of a rant. That's an interesting question for sure. But um,
I don't
to
even know
follow
where
up
the
your
motivation from that came from.
to follow up on your quote with a quote, there's a quote from 50 Cent, and he's like, "Sunny days wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for rain." So
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like I think, and now we're getting like super deep with it. Like I'm not going to subject people to, like, a lot of people know my favorite anime is Neon Genesis Evangelion. And no spoilers, but a large part of the subject matter is kind of to the idea of, would you rather live in like this static existence to where there's no good or no bad, so you don't ever have to experience extreme pain or sadness or loss or anything like that, but then you also don't get the good side of it, you're just like static in the middle, just kind of a flatline existence? Or is it better to live in a reality where like beautiful things happen, life is awesome, you get to enjoy everything that comes with it, but then you're also subject to death and loss and heartbreak and all the horrible things that come with life, right? And so that's kind of like the philosophy. And ultimately, I side on the side of like it's worth it to have all the terrible stuff to be able to experience all the great things that life offers. So yeah. Anyways, kind of a long-winded, very philosophical answer to a good question. Mine is so much like more relaxed in comparison. My question. Now
Like
I
I said,
feel
I don't know
bad.
where my motivation came from with that. I was just feeling weird on that day. I
It's
was like, I'm gonna write this
well,
down.
I'm kind of interested. I mean, like I'll ask my question too, but I'm kind of interested. Like, what do you think? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I stand on. I think when I was thinking about it, somehow, some way, I was thinking about it kind of the way that you put it. Like, I don't want to be the cause of the downfall of society. I would never be able to live with myself with that, even after the fact. Like on my deathbed, I couldn't live with myself knowing that I caused other people to have to work harder because of me. But that's sort of just my personality. Like, I'll be the type that like. I've never had this happen because I've never paid a cleaning person to come and clean my house. But I already know that if I ever paid a cleaning person to come clean my house, I'd be sitting there right alongside them cleaning with them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to sit back with a lemonade and be like, oh, I'm paying. That's a job. I have to get my hands dirty. It's like how I enjoy things. Just like in the same way that like, I, if I could just sit back and get paid to do something and make the same amount of money, versus having to get my hands dirty to do something and do a little extra work to get the same amount, like, or versus like having a business versus owning, working for someone else. I will probably always rather work a little harder to have more autonomy and feel like I'm doing it and I'm like I'm the cause, or rather than having someone else spoon feed me something. I always like to cook my own. I like to learn how to cook the things that I really enjoy rather than just finding a restaurant that really does it well and going back to that restaurant time and time again. Like, I'll have something that I really enjoy for the first time at a restaurant and be like, they did a great job. But then if I really enjoy it, I'll have to go and learn it like myself and master it. Like,
Especially when you're paying like $60 a plate or something for something nice.
and even when it's not a money thing, it's more like a convenience thing, or like I want the ability to, like, if that restaurant ever shut down, I don't like being beholden to anyone for anything. And so I don't like, one of my big things, feeling like I'm indebted to people for things. It's one of my biggest like toxic traits is I think that I can't feel that. I won't allow myself to feel that way. And so that goes into that. Like, I would feel like if I were to just sit back and let easy life, like live the easy life and enjoy the fruits of my labor, someone else's labor, and I wouldn't be able to do that and not feel guilty, because like it's just not a part of my personality to be able to do that, I guess. So like I don't know. I guess I feel the same way as you. I think that I would rather live a harder life, and I wouldn't think of it as a harder life. I would think of it as more of a fulfilling life, more than a harder life, because you could look at things any particular, like, what is life but a toy? Getting philosophical. Like, Sisyphus is just pushing this damn boulder up the hill, and then what is life but just this toil of pushing the boulder up the hill for it to then eventually come, back down and have to do it again over and over. That's the Greek philosophy of, Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill. And I guess one must assume, I think this is another philosopher who said this about Sisyphus, I think it was Decant, that one must assume that Sisyphus is at least satisfied with his burden because he keeps doing it over and over and over. And so like you would assume that you're at least satisfied with it. So if you're satisfied, you might as well enjoy it. So
Well,
like,
I think there's ways to the point of like, the satisfaction, like us being here, making businesses out of Pokemon, which is like something that we enjoy, like that is a way to sort of like ease the burden, or at the very least, like make the burden more bearable, right? Because maybe there's other things that we have to do that, we're not super stoked on, and that's just kind of what you have to do because that's life. But we also like have an outlet to where we can make money off of something nostalgic, something that we enjoyed as kids and now are able to enjoy as adults. So it makes that pushing the boulder a little bit easier. But you have to work to get to that point, right? Like it's not just going to fall into your lap. Like it takes work and effort to get to the point to where you can do something that you enjoy, right? Like if you come into this with like no market knowledge or any, like you're gonna have to, at the very least, like you're gonna have to do some learning to figure out how to monetize this. So, but yeah, I don't know.
but
Good
yeah,
question.
strictly not monetizing though, just strictly like life wise though, I do think that there's benefit, or uh, there's there's something to be had with like the toil of living a life, a tough life, a hard life. I think, um much like you said, it's like you don't know you have good until you've had bad, and vice versa. So so yeah, I don't know why it got so philosophical with that one, but it was just kind of a funny way to think about it. And I think I was thinking about it in terms of Pokemon, easy, easy versus hard, like quick, what,
Lot of softies in the hobby.
like,
Lot of softies.
yeah, like, is it better to just start out with like a bunch given to you, or is it better to build up and like know what it means, kind of thing, or does it even matter? So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's a funny crossfire. So sorry for the aside, but it was enjoyable, I think.
That was a good one. Mine is like so. much, I don't know, like less deep, I guess, in comparison. But I was gonna add, because like you sometimes ask about food, and I usually always do like the crazy deep business analytical blah 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 sort of stuff. But I want to do a little swapperoo this time. So there's always caveats, right? You could be like, oh well, this is best on this kind of food, or this is best on pizza, or I like to have this with eggs or whatever. But like without the caveats, or as little caveats as you can, what is the hands down best hot sauce? Like, what is your favorite hot sauce? You can't be like, well, I like this hot sauce for eggs. I like this hot sauce for burritos. I like this. Like, what is the best hot sauce? Like, just if you could, like, the whole basic trainer, you're on a desert island, you can only have like one hot sauce moving forward. Like, what's it gonna be for you?
I guess this is gonna be the only one that I ever really used. Probably is Tapatio.
Okay.
It's I don't use a ton of different hot sauces. I'm not one of those where you open up my refrigerator and in the door of the refrigerator there's like 12 different hot sauces. There's probably 3. So
Okay. Are they?
I
Is one of them Tabasco?
no, 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 I don't
Really?
use that. No, because Tapatio takes the place of Tabasco basically in that world, in that realm to me. Like Tabasco is like a really thin, like liquidy, kind of vinegary, kind of like tart almost. It's not really spicy as much as it is like kind of tart and vinegary and acidy. And like Tapatio to me is just a better version of that, in my opinion. It's like the same consistency, but it's got more rich chipotle kind of flavor and just a better flavor in general from me. And like if I'm putting hot sauce in a recipe, I'm usually throwing the Tapatio in it, honestly, more than anything else. Um, so yeah, I guess as far as like my hot sauce, like my family used to like Cthulhu, the wooden top one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cholula,
Cholula,
Cholula.
thank you. I
Yeah, yeah.
Cthulhu. I was thinking like the horror H.P.
Yeah,
Lovecraft.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, but that's just what it looks like after a while. Being in the refrigerator, the top starts looking like something out of Lovecraft. But my family liked those wooden topped ones back when I was growing up. But like I've just grown more accustomed to Tapatio, and that's what I go for. And like it's everywhere around me in California too, so like it's very available. So maybe that's just a bias based on where I'm at. But yeah, no,
What
never
about
Tabasco though. God no, I don't do Tabasco.
what about Frank's? You like Frank's?
Only on wings. Like there's literally one single situation where Frank's Red Hot is the only thing that you can use, and it's when you're making buffalo wings. But literally,
Yeah.
if it's not buffalo wings, no. Get what do I need Frank's for? I don't have a bottle of Frank's. Like, do you think I eat buffalo wings every day? Like, come on.
Sometimes in the morning, like I'll just have fried eggs and avocado slices and like hot sauce just on the avocado. It
Have,
hits.
have you
It hits.
tried like a chili crisp or like a kind of a chili oil instead of hot sauce on
Mm,
that situation?
no, that'd be good though. Like me and my girlfriend are huge fans of just red pepper flakes in general. Like if we want to spice something up but like don't want the flavor from the hot sauce, we'll put red pepper flakes in recipes. I love that.
Okay. What you got to do? You got to get yourself some chili oil, some like red pepper chili crisp kind of. They call it different things, but it's basically like red. It's like a bunch of spices. I like the Vietnamese version of it, which has like star anise. It's got like cloves and it's got like garlic and it's got a bunch of other aromatics and stuff in the oil. So it's got sesame oil as well as the base. So it's kind of got a more toasty. I like that. So my 3 hot sauces, just to round out my 3 that I have in my refrigerator at any given point. I have sriracha. I have the Tapatio.
Sriracha's undefeated. I forgot about that one.
Sriracha is like the go-to for like Asian style stuff. If I'm
Yeah,
making like
yeah.
ramen, anything like that, I'm not gonna use Tapatio. I'm gonna use sriracha. But so sriracha, Tapatio, and then that chili oil that I was talking about. Those are my 3 hot sauces that I use on most things, and that'll get me through. That'll get me through. I don't need any. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's so basic." Like I have a million hot sauces, but that's what I use. Those 3
That
basically.
Peak that you strikes me as the kind a guy that would have like 20 different hot sauces, and he's like, yeah, this one's from 1987 and it was a limited drop. Peak, if that's you, like I'm all about it. I'm not hating. Like
It's
I would love to
it's a
try
Texas thing. It's for sure
yeah,
a Texas thing
for
because
sure.
my one of my really good friends is from Texas, and he's one of those guys. He's every time I go over, it's a different hot sauce, it's different pepper, it's different whatever. I'm like, that's cool. Like, I'm
Sauce
down.
can make it or break it. Like hot sauce or other like sauces are important, man. Barbecue certain types of barbecue sauces, like you just got to have the right sauce for the right thing. I'm a huge sauce fan. So
And I guess I'm not a sauce person. Like I'm not as much of a saucy. Like I don't ever like I don't usually dip my barbecue in like the barbecue sauce. I like the bark and the outside of I like the baked in flavor of the outside of the barbecue usually. So like if it's just the meat and there's no like any darkness from the cooking on it, then I'll probably use barbecue sauce. But I don't know. I'm not a saucy kind of person. I prefer it to be honest, I don't dip my fries in a sauce. I salt and
you
pepper
don't
my
dip
fries.
fries in sauce, dog? What?
It's salt and pepper, bro.
No
And
way.
uh, it,
That is a nuclear take, dog. Like that is insane. That's insane.
what do you need? I like ketchup is the lamest thing you could possibly dip your fries in. Like, if
yeah.
you
I mean,
said to me you dip
ketchup's
your
kind of
fries
boring.
in aioli, then I might bite and I might try it. It's not something I do, but
Bro,
I can
Chick-fil-A sauce? Like, come on, dog. Chick-fil-A. Have you ever had Chick-fil-A sauce? Like, Chick-fil-A sauce slaps.
on my sandwich, like not on my fries. What? You think
Dog,
I'm a
like, come
savage?
on. No,
Think I'm
like,
some sort of what?
so you
What do you
only
take me
dip
as?
nuggets? You're not dipping fries? Do
No,
you
I'm
dip
dipping the
nuggets?
nuggets, but I'm not dipping the fries.
You
Yeah,
dipping the nuggets but not the fries? That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
The nuggets have more flavor than the fries do. That's
No, that's
crazy.
true. The nuggets have great flavor, but they do go well with the barbecue sauce. I'll give them that. That's one thing I dip is Chick-fil-A nuggets. But okay, that's gonna be a take that I'm gonna get some heat for in the comments. Not dipping my fries.
I mean, the other one that got me was on a Pokey Flips episode. Nick said that he doesn't drink the milk after the cereal; he just dumps it out. And I was like, "That's wild, dude!
I'm right there with Nick, bro. I'm right there with Nick. I
You're
don't
dumping
drink
the
the
milk
cereal.
out
No.
too,
Mm-mm.
bro? Like, oh my god, when you're kids, cinnamon toast crunch milk, you're dumping that out? You are crazy, dog. Christina Tozy, you should like respect this. Christina Tozy, owner of Milk Bar, is famous
I
for
know.
her cereal milk. She made cereal. You're gonna tell me cereal milk panna cotta? Like, come on, bro. Like, oh
Sounds
my.
disgusting.
Y'all
Sounds
are blocked and report. It's like dulce de leche, but like more pop culture. I don't know. Yeah, you
but
guys are
more
just.
like high fructose corn syrup and artificial colors and stuff like that. Yeah, sounds great.
I can't with you guys. You and
Listen,
Nick.
like cereal's delicious, milk is fine, but to sit there and drink a whole half gallon of cow's milk that came out of the tit of a cow, it came out of the boob of a cow, to sit there and drink it and have like milk
Utters,
dripping
utters.
off of your face, I'm all set, bro.
Hey
I'm all
yo,
set.
I don't. I don't know. One said milk has to drip off your face. All
I'm
right,
just saying.
bro. We are 48 minutes, and we gotta keep it. We're getting canceled this episode. Like, oh my god. All
Listen,
right.
I don't drink cow's milk. I will cook with it. I will use it in recipes, but I don't drink cow's milk. All right. I drink water, my friend. Water. That is what I drink. I drink water. And occasionally, if I'm feeling a little bit spicy, I might have a soda. Maybe, but it's not.
I haven't had soda in years, dude. Like, I haven't. You know what I can't do too is all right, this is the last thing we got to move, but like LaCroix or LaCroix or however you say, I can't do it, dude. There was some meme I saw on Instagram that like the flavors were like one of them was like rode inside a banana truck or like a truck that once delivered bananas, like kind of you know what I'm saying? Like the flavor is so minimal. Like
The ghost of a lime. The
yeah,
ghost of a lime.
yeah, like it just doesn't. I think people like use them to mix for cocktails and stuff like that, but it's just yeah, LaCroix is mid to me.
The
Sorry.
lemon one's like a lemon peed into the can. That's what the lemon liqueur tastes like. It's like a lemon went and peed into the can. That's what it tastes like.
Yeah, it's just not for me. It's not for me. I'm all set.
Yeah, no, yeah, no liqueur. I'm with you on that one. The liqueur, I'm all set. I'll just take regular water. I don't need like weird flavored water. I'm fine with regular water, thank you. But yeah, I'm sure there's people who love their liqueur. It's like, I mean, I get it. Like, if you're a soda drinker and you replace the habit with like LaCroix, that's obviously a much, much better replacement for
Yeah,
sure.
that's a good point. That's a good point for
And
sure.
I'm not necessarily a soda drinker, but if I had to choose between the two, if I'm gonna go for something that's not water, I'll definitely go for a soda over LaCroix, like every day.
Yeah, same. I like soda. I'm not a soda drinker. Like it's been a long time since I had soda, and like if I ever do have it, like if it's like mixed in with like some whiskey or something, it tastes like death water. I just know I'm like this is so bad. It's so sugary. Like I just I
Dude, it's
can't.
good with certain things. Like it's ice
Yeah,
cold Coca-Cola with like some fries and a burger kind of
yeah,
situation,
hundred
like
percent,
sweet and
100%.
savory. Yeah, it works, you know.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with like beer. Like beer goes
Mhm.
great with salty food. So if you're at the bar and like you're eating, fries or whatever garbage bar food or whatever, and like you have a beer with it hits. So
It cuts the grease, like the brightness of the
yeah,
beer, like
yeah, yeah,
cuts
yeah.
through the heaviness of the fried food and stuff. Yeah. Everyone's gonna listen to this podcast and be like really hungry, or they're gonna be really
Yeah, they'd be like,
angry
you
at our
guys just
food
talked
take.
for an hour about philosophy, hot sauce, and soda. Like, what are you doing? But
Is
that's
this a
what you get
Pokemon
over here. You
podcast
don't.
or what? Like,
Yeah, like we're not sitting around waiting for our live guests to ask us questions like some podcasts.
oh, shots fired. Speaking of other podcasts, though, before we move on, I do want to throw a shout out to the new podcast on the block. Our friends Beerski and Ponga started a podcast. I think it's called.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
Today's
okay.
their first episode, so you'll have to check it out after this. So shout out to those guys. If you guys haven't already, go check them out. But love to see some new podcasters entering the Pokemon podcast sphere. Let's see if they can go a whole hour before they talk about Pokemon in their podcast.
Poor Walrus, man. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Like that man has been trying to get on a podcast for. I bet like a month from now it'll be Mason and Walrus. We'll have a podcast, so we'll see.
Now that's one I would listen to. The thing about Mason is he's a rock star. Mason is a rock star. It's just a rock. Sorry, that was for Mason. That's for you, buddy. Since Professor Oak isn't gonna be on the Slab podcast this week, and there's nobody to be calling you a rock star, he thought Mason was crying in the Discord. I could see the tears obscuring what he was typing on his little keyboard in the Discord, saying that nobody was going to call him a rock star. And so I just want to go out on a ledge and say, Mason, you're a rock star. It's a straight rock star. Let me go have some mayo on pizza now.
Yeah,
Um,
that love you can't go that far with it. But yeah, I agree on the sentiment. Mason definitely is a rock star. Every time he drops a video, I'm always tapping in for sure.
yeah. So on that sentiment, let's get talking
Yeah,
about
let's go.
Pokemon.
Let's talk about some card stuff.
It's
All
been
right.
almost a whole hour and we have not even talked about Pokemon. I think we talked about like a card show or something, but the thing is, like, I think we've been giving some mixed messages over the last couple of months about modern. Like, is it booming? Is it busting? Like, what's going on with this situation? Like, are reprints good? Are they bad? Like, if a reprint comes, are we running for the hills and selling everything, or is it kind of a good thing? Like, but yeah, what are your takes on this? Like, maybe we should clarify some things, I guess, because I think that there are some things we have said in the past that have been a little bit just back and forth on the issue, depending on how we're feeling on any particular week. But what do you think? Would you say modern is it booming or is it busting?
I think that I mean it's obvious like obviously like the demand's there, but like I've said it so many times. Pokemon's goal as a company is to capture as much market share, as much value in these products as possible. They do not make money when you sell them on the secondary market at an inflated price. So, because of that, Pokemon has spent the last few years adjusting the print runs, and there's a lot of this stuff out there. It's not to say that people don't want it. It's not to say that it won't go up in the future. It just might take a little bit longer, or you might have more buy-in opportunities than maybe you did with certain Sword and Shield sets, just because there's more of it. There's a ton of it. And to the Shining Treasure EX, That's a good set. And the Charizard is like it's probably still like 230, 250 in a 10. Mew's like $130 or something
It's
like that. Like
$600 in English in a 10.
yeah, yeah. So it's expensive, and people are like, oh, Paldean Fates is weak set. The Charizard is $600. People like this stuff. People are buying this stuff, and like for me on the Shiny Treasures, like it's sold really well. Like those chase cards, like there was good demand for them. The boxes, though, if you just looked at the box price, you'd be like, oh, no one's ever gonna want this. There's too much of it. I think, like, again, I didn't buy the boxes to invest. I bought them to hopefully flip in person. But if I have to sit on them, I'm pretty confident because it's a good set. They just made a ton of it. They just made a ton of it. So I just think that like people have to wait, and people don't want to wait because traditionally you haven't really had to. And with stuff like One Piece and Lorcana, a lot of the time, if you get in at a good buy-in price and they don't do a reprint instantly, you are making money. But that's just not happening with Pokemon right now. Like you have plenty of time, and even stuff from the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, like Paldean or not Paldean Fates, Paldea Evolved. That's like what $110 box after shipping and fees. You're basically breaking even if you bought it at like 85 or 90 or something like that. Maybe you got way cheaper than that. I don't know. But the point is like the game, it's moving for sure, but like it's not like moving crazy to where it's like, all right, time to unload the position. It probably will at some point if they don't like keep on reprinting it. It's just going to take a little bit longer. And I think people are so like short-term minded on stuff, and they're like, oh, no one likes the Scarlet and Violet era. That's totally not true. People like these cards. There's just a lot of the sealed product out there. It's available for people. People like out here on live stream, people say stuff like, oh, well, I see stuff at Walmarts and Targets now, so no one wants it. If you see Pokemon 151 at a Walmart, that does not mean that no one wants Pokemon 151. You know what I'm saying? Like those two things, like it's not. I'm trying to figure out what the word is, but like just because it's available does not mean no one wants it. Like Pokemon 151 is like probably the hottest set of last year, and it maybe like the last couple of years outside of like Evolving Skies. So just because it's available at stores does not mean no one wants it. But yeah, like what do you think?
Yeah, no, I would definitely think it's in the past, I think we've had some takes that may come off as bearish at times, but I think overall we've had a pretty consistent message about modern being continuing to boom. And you always say it, like you're wondering if you could continue to do this for the long term, and for right now it looks like we can, and I feel the same way. And so, like, to me that says it's still very strong. I think that where the talk about busting sort of starts talking or coming into play is like when we talk about price depreciation, or like certain things not necessarily increasing as quickly as they had in the past, or like the price of a raw card to a PSA 10, that difference not being so like many multiples as it was. Like these are things that I think could come across as chew, excuse me, as maybe like signs of a weakening market, but I think it's more less of signs of a weakening market and more of signs of an adjusting market, because I think that what we're seeing is the market move in different directions, which is completely normal.
Well,
And
it's
going
also
out of the pandemic era, which had different challenges associated with it, when you talk about like supply chain issues and just sealed, and then things in general, and people and demand in general, because people were just stuck at home. Now there's so much more to do. You don't have to play Pokemon cards or go buy cards online. You can go get dinner, go to the movies, or go to a baseball game, or you could do all kinds of things now. Whereas like with the hobby, when it was booming in the 2020, 2021, you could go make sourdough bread, or you could you could go watch your favorite anime for the 20th time, or you could watch the Tiger King documentary, or you could invest in
Tiger King
Pokemon
was
cards.
fire. Tiger King was fire. I think one thing like okay, so demand, because if you look at like eBay, Terra Peak, blah blah blah, like sales as far as like volume, like dollar amounts like being sold of Pokemon cards are definitely continually up year over year. But what we don't have anymore with the demand for Pokemon is a sense of urgency. And you see with certain things like Van Gogh Pikachu, when there is a sense of urgency, sites get shut down, right? Everybody's on YouTube talking about it. Everybody's on Facebook trying to scout, blah, blah, blah. Like when there is a sense of urgency for a product, people go nuts. But people like the UPC, like the Celebrations UPC was popping. But then Pokemon saw that and were like, we want to make more money next time. So then the next time they made a UPC, they like overprinted it in the short term, lost consumer confidence, or at the very least, consumers thought, oh, okay, well, there isn't a sense of urgency here. I can wait. There's more of this available. I can pick it up at a price I feel comfortable with. With stuff like Van Gogh Pikachu, there is still that sense of urgency. People are buying. During the pandemic, everything was a sense of urgency. Sealed product was scarce. You couldn't find it at stores. Graded cards, because PSA was shut down, turnaround times, backlog, blah, blah, blah. Graded cards were scarce. Now there is no scarcity at all. Like all this stuff is readily available to people. And I think over the past 3 years, people that have been in the hobby are more of an educated consumer base now. They don't feel a sense of urgency. They're like, well, I see 151 at the store. I don't need to pre-order it anymore for a price that's like, 20% above market. And then like when it actually drops, then all the LGSs and online stores are competing and only making $1 a box. Now everybody is like making $1 a box or losing $5 or $10 a case or whatever it is, right? Just to get it off their books because there is no sense of urgency anymore. Even if the set's a good set, right? Like even 151, great set, but prices have evened out on it because there's enough of it to like satiate the current demand. Now over the long term, is that going to be the case? Like probably not because it's super hot, but like there's no like I have to invest in it right now because if not, it's going to be up 30% in the next 3 months. Like that kind of stuff doesn't exist anymore. And I think that's why people are starting to push that whole like, oh, well, what if Pokemon short printed a set? If they're short printing temporal forces, you think people are going to care? Temporal forces is boof. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, like if anything, they short print the set because they know there's going to be less demand for it. Boxes of that in Japan are dark right now. They're like $33, $35 a piece in Japan for those sets. And it's got all 3 legendary dogs and a Gengar in it. So yeah, man, like I've been ranting, but
Well, no,
yeah.
that's the biggest point I think that, and that's the second part of this whole question or prompt is like, are reprints good? And so, like, if we're talking about a set being short printed and people getting excited about that, like, that to me is the opposite of something to be excited about. That's something that should signal like, okay, maybe that's not a great thing because usually when a set reprints, it's because the demand is in such a high amount that they literally have to stop what they're doing, put down the new stuff, and go back and reprint the older stuff just to meet that demand. And if they're right out the gate seeing that this ain't it, Ash, this ain't what people want, that's not necessarily a strong sign. And that just means to me that the people who go heavy on this not being reprinted, or thinking that it's not going to be reprinted because it's short print, they're like, oh, it's like team up was short printed, Ultra Prism was short printed, look what happened to those while they were out. Those are great sets. And so this is not a great set, it doesn't look like, and it's short printed. What happens when they do decide to print it a little more later on down the road, when they give it a booster box reprint like they do with everything? And then it just gets crushed. Then you're just sitting for 2 more years with dead product and dead capital, and you're feeling bad about your investments that you were feeling great about because it was short printed, and for the first month after it sold out went up 10%, 15% maybe. But then when the reprint hit, nobody had confidence in it because it had no fundamentals behind it and it's not a good set. So I think that reprints are actually good, and I think you want to see out the gate an oversupply or an overconfidence on the company's part, to be feeling confident about it, because then you get the other situation like what happens with One Piece and Lorcana and these other games, that when they do, the sets are so reliant because of the secondary prices of the market going pushed up so high that if a reprint hits, it crushes them and it crushes people's hopes and desires to invest or desires to interact with the game because they get so, that swing is so high. I think that's more of an issue than actual having too many reprints. I think it's more of an issue not having enough reprints in a game. Honestly, that's more of a red flag to me. But That's
Yeah,
my
I mean, if like ideally, if the organic demand is like with 151 in Japanese, for instance, that has been reprinted multiple times and it's still
it's
dummy
going
expensive.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because people want that set. Like to me, not investment advice, but like if you were trying to pick some seal to invest in on the English side, like right now, best bang for your buck to me is probably like Sword and Shield, booster boxes, Charizard UPCs, and 151 product, like the booster bundles, or maybe even the UPC, like whatever, like you can get for the best price per pack, like
Crown
whatever.
Zenith, and obviously Crown
Yeah,
Zenith.
maybe Crown's in it too. Like that kind of stuff. Like it's just like buy the good, but like you try to get too cute, like to the point on the $35, like the Cyber Force and or Cyber Judge Wild Force, which is the temporal forces, the two sets that are in Japanese that make it up. Yeah, it's $33 a box right now. It's cheap. Do I think it's going to go lower than $33 a box? No, but like, do I think that that's going to be dead money for a while? Yeah. And do I think that it's getting a little cute to spend $33 on that versus buying like 151 or something that's good, that's more expensive? Yeah. Because I would rather, even if 151 is like 130 bucks a box, I'd rather have one 151 box than four Cyber Judge boxes.
That
There's
was
just
gonna be
so
my
much.
question is, would you rather have the equivalent amount of the Cyber Judge, boxes versus the 1 box if it's like $200 a
Yeah,
box?
I want the better set. Sometimes there's like right now, the big like the value investor whatever type play to me is shiny treasure because there's a lot of it and it's like 40-45 bucks whatever if you buy in like wholesale, stuff like that. Like it's cheap. That's a good set. There's a ton of demand for it for the singles. There's just a lot of it. I would rather buy that at $40 than Cyber Judge or Wild Force at 33. The $7 difference is negligible to me because the chase cards are Charizard and Mew and Gardevoir. And it's got a shiny Pikachu in it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And the boxes are easy to store because they're smaller, it's a specialty set, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, that to me, like, don't get cute. Like sometimes it does make sense to spend up a little bit just for the better set. And of course, like that's subjective. People like sets that they didn't like in the past, vice versa. What about you though? Like, are you in that same line of thinking, or are you just like, if it's cheap, like if I can get it for the cheapest possible price, I can offer it for the cheapest price? Like, what do you think?
It's hard for me because I specifically don't like Japanese 151 as a set. I like the English version a lot better, and so I'd never pay the premiums for the Japanese version.
But yeah, so like take 150 like English. Would you rather have something cheaper like a Scarlet and Violet like booster box or other set, or would you rather have like the same equivalent amount of money but you get less of it in 151?
I think the equivalency in English would be like the Evolving Skies situation. Would I rather have like a box of Evolving Skies at 500 or like a box of Obsidian Flames at 100 or 5 boxes at of Obsidian Flames versus 1 box of Evolving Skies? And I would rather have the 5 boxes of Obsidian Flames than the 1 box of Evolving Skies because I feel like something like that's already done its run. Just like I think that Pokemon
But
151
would you
Japanese has made its run as
but
well.
but would you rather have $100 in Obsidian Flames, or would you rather have $100 in 151, even if it's less product?
Yeah, and so that's the question. Like it's and it's I think that it just comes down to the set, right? And something like Cyber Judge, like you said, is getting too cute. Whereas if you were looking at something like the EX Treasure or Shiny Treasures, where it's only a few dollars more, I would rather pony up the extra few dollars for the better product. But if we're talking about pony up a lot of extra money for a very little amount of product, like that's already made its run, like Japanese 151 or English Evolving Skies or English UPCs, celebrations UPCs. Like I don't like those at $300 right now, even though they've made their run. Like I don't like that product at
Yeah,
$300
yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
for equivalency purposes. I don't. So like it just depends on the individual product, I guess. So there's a little nuance when it comes to that. But as far as like a general answer, do I like the better product for more money or the cheaper product for less money? As long as the better product hasn't made its run up to a crazy amount and is at like all-time highs or whatever, then I like the better product. But if that product is like 151 Japanese or English Evolving Skies, even when English Evolving Skies is like $300 a box, I still wouldn't have liked it at that price. So I'll double down and say at 300, I still would take 3 boxes of Obsidian Flames instead of 3 or 1 Evolving Skies booster box. And I would be totally wrong. And I know that because I'm looking at it now from the future lens, knowing I'm wrong, but looking back at myself and my opinions I have and my thoughts, I know that I would have made that choice back then at 300 because I was selling my Evolving Skies booster boxes at 260.
What about 2 boxes of Brilliant Stars instead of 3 of Obsidian Flames?
I would rather have the Brilliant Stars.
Yeah, me too. Me
And it's
too.
more expensive. So that's where you start getting into like I would pay up for it because I still don't think Brilliant Stars has made its way to where it should be. It hasn't climbed where it needs. It's been all the way to $200 before, but it's way under that still. So
Yeah, yeah, because it's still on like Pokemon Center and
yeah,
stuff, right? So
yeah. Once
yeah,
it's off of Pokemon Center. Brilliant Stars is my set. That's my set that I would want, and I don't even have a lot of it. I have very little Brilliant Stars, so I should start putting my money where my mouth is.
all right.
Um,
You want
but
to
yeah,
get
I don't think reprints are bad. I think that they're good, and so I think that as this sort of implies, and as we've kind of implied, I think that modern is booming. It's just in different areas. It's not everything's booming anymore, and it's different reasons for why. So yeah,
Yeah, well, and last, like, quick little thing to your whole point, bringing it back full circle about the One Piece. People are constantly like, "Oh, well, Bandai kills games. Bandai kills games," and I think part of that is because they waited so long for like all this stuff to pop off and then are coming back and are like, okay, well, now we're going to decimate this with reprints. And that kills consumer confidence because now they're like, oh, well, now there's a ton of it and it's worth nothing. And that creates this sort of like cascading effect. Whereas, like, to your point, if they just print a bunch of it out the gate and it's already cheap, it's kind of hard to like go lower than that already. It's like eventually it'll get eaten up. It'll get eaten up. It's accessible to people out the gate. But if it's really exclusive out the gate and it seems like this, prized item, it's really hard to get, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it becomes worthless or seemingly worthless to people because of reprints, that kills interest. I feel like that more so kills interest than the other way around where there's just a lot of it out the gate. So, yeah.
yeah, that's what I would rather see. Is I'd rather see a company put all of its print at the beginning of the print run and just kind of front load it and be confident in their product and then let it go. And then if they have to, then they can come back to it and reprint it. But like you said, I don't like the idea of way later down the road when it's not even a thought in people's mind, then going back because that's how you lose your consumer confidence. So
Yeah, they're like what, 6 sets deep, and they're going back and reprinting like all of them. I think, right? Like that's kind of nuts. Like that seems a little. And I know like Mason or other people are like, oh, it's still in rotation, whatever. I get it, but like 6 sets deep, like that seems pretty crazy. So
yeah, that's too far. Like, I think it's okay to reprint, like, and I mean, Pokemon does it too, but Pokemon has a longer rotation and you have more consumer confidence in Pokemon because it has such a track record. When you have a track record and you can establish yourself as Pokemon, like you're the Pokemon TCG, you have more leniency from your consumer base on reprints. Even if you go back and crush it, like the Ultra Prism reprint that they did back in 2021, they went back a month before rotation, literally 30 days before rotation, and printed a small reprint of booster boxes for Ultra Prism, and then also 3-pack blisters and stuff. And like, yeah, that's crazy. Like everyone was like, "Holy shit, this is something that they've never done. Like this is something that's completely out of rotation for them. This is not normal." They still did it. You know what happened to Ultra Prism? Not a damn thing. Like it still went up. It went down just a smidge, like a 20% drop when that reprint hit. And then it just went right back up, the booster boxes did. So like reprints, when you're a company with a track record, you can do those types of reprints and you can crush your consumers' confidence and it'll come back. But when you're someone like a new card game and you have only had a few sets, you can't go back and do that. You don't have the rapport to go and crush your game like that. Your people will leave. They'll just leave.
Yeah, 100%. All right, really quick before we get into this, let's do
The
let's
giveaway.
let's pick the winner.
An hour and 15 minutes in.
I know. I mean, I mean, I'll comment or message. All right, so I got the video loaded. I didn't do duplicates or replies, so everybody just got one entry. Let's see who wins. Muffin Swagger. Been lurking the last few podcasts, but this one was great. Appreciate the content, fellas. Got me through my workday. Appreciate you, Muffin Swagger 1359. I will be reaching out to send you this mystery pack. So please be on the lookout. I really don't want to have to try and give this away again. So
I will pin your name in the comment up the top of the comment section here too. So if you don't make it an hour and 15 minutes in, but you see the comments for some reason, you can at least see it there. Your name will be there, the winner or whatever announcement. And maybe we'll try to reach out on Instagram or something like
that's
that.
a good idea. Like put them in all caps. All right. So bad prices on good things. I have said multiple times that investing, like it's just not my business model. Like I'd rather just, keep it churning as much as possible, especially when it comes to things like slabs. But we have been at a point for, I want to say, like, I don't know, man. Like I've been seeing stuff like this for the last like 3 to 6 months where I am seeing good cards sell for absolutely nothing. And the conversation I want to have is the mark like, and we've been seeing this, fundamentals, a lot of cards with like fundamentals have performed horribly. And in fact, like maybe the worst out of everything over the past, like, 3 years since the booms. All like most of the low pop stuff, like it's just gone down and down and down. All this like rare, like nice stuff and stuff with, under 100 pop, while cards like Mario Pikachu and other Pikachu promos and waifus have just like absolutely gone vertical, right? Like they're Nvidia and we're like China's GDP or something with the fundamentals. Like it's just been stagnant. It's not been great. And so I wanted to show this, and I think you'll actually like this because this is something that we actually share in common. We both have a love for this set, which in English is Unseen Forces. In Japanese, it's called Golden Sky, Silvery Ocean. I don't know if you can make me full screen. I don't know how to. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this card, which used to be and kind of still is, I love this art. I want to say it's Kusajima. This card is a grail to me. Okay, look at this. Man, this guy D Dizzle, I'm calling you out, bro. Like I checked, these are all different certs. This dude auctioned like 5 or 6 of the same card, like week after week after week. He must have been like a Typhlosion collector or something because he had a bunch of other copies of different Typhlosion cards. Anyways, look at these sales. $41 with like $5 shipping. This one 62, 61, like dark, dude. And this is unlimited. And the first edition one, or no, both of these are unlimited. So the first one sold for 61. This one sold for $41. Look at that art, dude. Come on. Kusajima. Okay, got the pop report pulled up. Let's look here and see what we're working with here. Typhlosion. This is the unlimited version. 58 pop, 58 and 69 in first edition. So 58 at a $41 valuation. There's like that's like $2,500 market cap for this card. Pop 58. Like it is so nuts to me. Like there's only $2,500 worth of demand in the entire world for a Typhlosion card. And you want to see something else that's crazy? Look at this. The set that it comes out of. Look at this. Okay, well that's an empty booster pack. Oh, shouts out to Minty Mountain Jake there. Little plug. Look at this. There's only 3 packs listed. This is an empty pack. This dude's dusted. You're not getting 350. Jake got $3. But look at this. The cheapest pack is $1,300 OBO. So you can hit it's not an EX. It's not like a Lugia EX or an Espeon or whatever, but like it's a Typhlosion Hollow. And it's $41 and the pack is $1,300. Like, I know these conversations have been had before, but and again, you might be like, oh, retro, no one cares about that, blah, 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 blah. But I promise you, you can do this with so many different cards from so many different sets. This isn't a 9. This is a 10. This isn't a 4 cert. It's a 7 cert. Like, it's not a Charizard level Pokemon, but it's a fairly popular Pokemon. It's $41. I would have bought this. And at these kinds of prices, if Pokemon is not investable, if these kinds of slabs are not investable, they're never going to be. Like, are we bottoming here? Is it just like people are just 100% modern? And then to throw a little juxtaposition on it, let's see what. So this card, it's like $160, or I guess Lola's $150, right? For the Charizard EX. These boxes are $45. 45, and there's a ton of them. Again, there's only 2 booster packs even listed of Golden Sky Silver Ocean. There's probably over 1,000 boxes of Shiny Treasure listed. This card is $150. It's almost 4 times this, and this comes out of a pack that's listed for 1,000 or over $1,000. Like, I'm ranting here, but it's like either we're just a hobby that is only focused on the new hot modern thing, or since people got back in late Sun and Moon, early Sword and Shield, and that's just how it is forever, or we are bottoming, because like this is insane to me. Like, yeah, like that's my rant. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things that, like you said, mid-era, like low pop, kind of unknown sort of things. They don't hype up. They don't get the YouTube videos. They don't get all the crazy eyes and all the like social media push that you get like from the Ponchos, the Moonbryon, the modern stuff that's being constantly made, like videos about 151, all that stuff. So, like, to compare them with that, I think our hobby is still so young that it's like it's driven more by irrational hype and like culture than it is by fundamentals. And we've seen this time and time again. Well, you and I, we can sit here and say it should be or it could be or fundamentals that, fundamentals this. We're just not there yet, it seems like. So I
But
had
do
to
you think we
comp.
ever gonna, like, at 3 years into it now, 4 years into it?
Yeah.
Do you think we
No, I think
ever
we're
get
still way
there?
too young. So yes, I do think I disagree with it that if I disagree with the take that if we're not there now that we'll never get there. Because if you look back 2 years ago when it was booming, those types of cards were going for $200. You know what I mean? So it's sort of a ebb and flow kind of thing. And just like other markets, you want to know when to interact. Like we made a podcast a few weeks ago that was like the importance of selling is like knowing when to sell is important. And this is one of those situations where it's important to know when, because I think that, like you said, they're rare cards. They're hard to get. The packs are thousands of dollars. Like but nobody cares. Like I had to at a show the other day, a PSA 10 Steelix from Neo, the first Neo set.
Yeah, I like that art. It's a good one.
Cool art. It's an unlimited card. It walked up to my table, and the guy had it for like $150 or something. PSA 10, English, whatever. And so I had to
Wait,
comp it.
English Unlimited Hollow for $150?
Yeah.
That seems like a snap, but I bet I check eBay and last auction's like $85 or something stupid.
Dude, tell me, that is exactly how you get out of my head. I was like,
No, is
that
it?
seems
Don't
good.
tell me that, dude.
So I went. I was like, okay, let me see, $150. It seems good. I can give you some trade value for that, I think. And like, so I went and looked, and I think I could find an auction for like $89 or $101 or something after taxes and or after shipping and stuff. And uh, I had to offer him like basically $125, $120, or basically like 125 bucks, just to kind of get closer to his comps or what the comps needed to be. And I thought about it. I didn't even want the card at that price because it was gonna have to sit there on my eBay. I couldn't even send it to like, the vault or whatever. I couldn't even do. It's just gonna sit in my case because nobody collects Steelix. So I ended up just letting it walk by. I think it was a great price. I think 150 bucks is probably fair for a card like that. The packs are like 300 bucks, 200, 300 bucks for a pack for an English pack of that set, and you won't get a 10 on it most likely. I think that card's easier to grade than other cards are, but still it doesn't matter. The point is, like, it's low. The prices on unlimited English cards in English, in vintage cards from WotC, is between like $300 and $700 basically for most cards, with a lot of them being under that, even like the Steelix I was just talking about, with some exceptions, like weird things like the base set Chansey and like Yanma, unlimited Yanma hollow, and some weird low pop, really low pop things, that are hard to grade just because they're low numbers of them, but not popular Pokemon. So I mean, I do think that the hobby's too young to say that it's never going to get there. I think that the people who are buying those types of things are just turning 30 right now, and the 30-year-olds don't have an extra 300 to $700 to buy once a month into these investable things. But maybe when they get a little older and get a little more investable income, they will. I don't even think those guys are putting a lot of money in right now into their 401ks, into like other types of alternative assets. I don't think a lot of the general populace right now is like flush with a lot of extra cash. I think there's a little bit of a squeeze in the economy happening, and I think it's translating over to Pokemon, but I don't think that's signs of weakness. The fact that it hasn't dropped as much for something that's completely unnecessary, I would think, is actually signs of pretty good strength. Like, that's what I would think.
I just think it is nuts to me. Like, and don't get me wrong, like I've been saying demand is what matters for a long time, and I've gotten flack from other people that are like, oh well, you can't just say that, it's supposed, like supply and demand, they both matter. But like honestly, with the way that the market has been, does supply still matter? Yes, of course, absolutely. We've seen what happened with the prices of Pikachu Van Gogh, like since those have been reprinted, like those have come down. But like bottom line, demand has driven everything. And if the demand is there, it outpaces the supply so It's like the Mario Pikachu example is a perfect example. There is no shortage of supply of those cards, and they just continue to go up in value. They always auction for around the same price, and they've done nothing but go up. Same thing with like a lot of the sealed like Pikachu Sun and Moon era like Pikachu promos and different like Japanese exclusive Pikachu promos and stuff. Like it's the same thing. There's tons of supply, tons of supply. And here there's cards where there's like 60 in the world, no supply, but no demand. But even still, it's nuts to me that there's only 2,500, let's say $3,000 worth of demand in the entire world. When you compare that to something like even that Charizard, how many of that has been graded? Like I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in market cap. So like again, yeah, it's Typhlosion, but it's not like it's not like a random Sunkern promo or something from some crazy. It's
I've,
Golden
I've sold
Sky
Spiritombs for more than that Typhlosion. I've sold Spiritombs for more. So I get your
Yeah,
point.
like it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like to me, it's like either it just is what it is, and again, like maybe but who? If you're waiting 5 years, 3 years, even 2 more years at this point for fundamentals to matter, that has been a horrible trade. Horrible trade. Because in the meantime, you could have been turning your money over. You could have even been like buying booster boxes and flipping those, and probably would have outpaced investing like in these vintage, like good fundamental cards or what. And there are certain things that have done well, like certain, worlds promos and like it's not to say the market is a monolith, but I think maybe like what struck was I saw a listing, like I found a listing for $90 for it last night, already graded. And I was like, oh, that's a great deal. Like I love that card. And then I went to comp it on eBay and saw that the last sale was $41. I cannot go replace that card for $41.
Mhm.
The amount of time it's going to take, like maybe I find a copy listed for $20, but how and it'll 10 maybe, but maybe I don't. And the cheapest mint copy is like $30, and I'm spending more between the time it took me to find that card, getting it sent to me, getting, sending it off to PSA, getting it graded, insured shipping back, blah 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 blah. I'm spending more money. Like, I know I'm ranting, but it is just nuts to me that
Well,
there
it
is
leads me to
so.
the question. How about this? Do you think that certain cards are investable and certain just will never be? And it's pretty obvious about it. And now that you've been able to step back and like we've really gone through the nuance of this and like you've kind of unpacked a little more about demand versus fundamentals and what matters, what does, and you know what types of cards have done well. Would you be more comfortable thinking that there's a certain type of card where you're like, yeah, that's investable. Whereas another type of card is like that's collectible, but that's never going to go up in price. And like I like that, but it's collectible, not investable.
Yeah, I mean, like certain, but okay, so in sports, it's definitely that way to where it's like highly focused at like only the top players. Some random like B tier player is never going to be investable, right? Like it's goats only. Like that's what does well. That's what's most liquid. In Pokemon though, it's a slightly different dynamic because people like so many Pokemon. Even like the game, it's like catch them all, or like when you have your party, you have 6 Pokemon in a party. It's not one Pokemon. So
It's got to
even
be
though
like
there's
that for sports too, though. With teams, like if you like, okay, say you like Michael Jordan, right? Right, you collected all the Michael Jordan cards from when he was on the Bulls. But say you want to then collect the whole team, his whole team of he was playing with on the Bulls at the same time. So then you get those other guys who are on the team with them, and so you collecting, and then you're like, you know what? I've collected all them. I want all of the Bulls, and you collect the Chicago Bulls, and you grow. This is like that with Pokemon. You start off with your favorite card. You start collecting the species. Maybe you like the whole set. You go the set. Sometimes you don't. It's different. I think it's the same with Pokemon too. It's just
yeah,
you
I
know
mean, and you might be right. Like maybe I am more, which is interesting because I'm not even like a collector, but maybe I'm more interested in multiple things than the average person, and because of that, that's like obscuring my view of what the market. But like it does seem crazy. Like Typhlo, like I could name other Pokemon that are less popular than like Typhlosion's the Charizard of Johto. He's not Charizard, but like he's still. And if you look at other Typhlosion cards, they go for a lot of money. Like the first edition T7, or like that was a huge talking point, right? So it's not like Typhlosion is some random Pokemon that nobody cares about. But it's also very possible that that card is never investable, even at $40, and it's just super collectible. That would be insane to me.
so like
But it
this
also might just be what
the
it
stamp
is. Like,
box Pikachu, the stamp box Pikachu that came out in 2021, the Japanese post box one that we've come, it's come and gone. It's now out of the zeitgeist completely. Do you think that that's a more investable card than like the Typhlosion? Would you say from Silver East?
yeah, I mean, yeah, probably just because like it had more, like more people are talking about it. But again, like,
Do you
yeah,
think the odds of that going up in price in the future are higher than the odds of the Typhlosion going up in the future at a higher rate?
yeah, probably, yeah.
And
Even
you
though
and I will both sit here and agree that that stamp box is printed to the fucking ground. Like
yeah,
there's
they
a
made a lot
million.
of them. Made a
And
lot
the
of them.
Typhlosion is impossible to find in a PSA 10 and so much harder. There's going to be so many more Typhlosion collectors who want that and won't be able to get it than the people who want the stamp box and will be able to get it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And yet, I think we can both sit here and agree that as a card and as a fundamental investable, quote unquote, investable, I think we would both agree that the Pikachu card that was just made, brand new, modern, PSA 10s every time, all this stuff is a far more investable product than buying into $40 PSA 10 Typhlosions from Silver Star.
Yeah, it's just I like I don't disagree. It's just nuts to think about because it's like if you had $150 to spend, would you rather buy like 4 PSA 10 cool hollows with a pop of like under 75, or would you rather buy one shiny treasure Charizard EX? Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's nuts to me. Like I thought over time, and again, like I've never positioned my business in a way to where like I'm grading cards with fundamentals. Because guess what? Cards with fundamentals have fundamentals for a reason. They're hard to grade. They're hard to source. They don't make money.
You
The
can't
stuff that
repeat
makes
it. It's very
yeah,
it's not repeatable.
it's
Yeah.
not repeatable, especially in 2024. Or at least it's less repeatable, right?
Hmm.
And you can't make an entire business out of it, or at least I can. If you can, shouts out to you. But it I don't know, man. Like I really thought, and maybe it's because of like the people I was listening to at the time and seeing everything go crazy and then correct. Like I really thought, but like for a lot of the good, or I guess what I would consider good stuff, we're back at like 2019 prices. Like these aren't even like Corona prices. These are pre-boom prices. Like this shit is dark, especially with grading being $15 now, factoring in that grading is 33% the value of that card. And that's with shipping included. Like that is nuts. But to your point, that might just be what it, but it's crazy because the dollar amount is so low. The fact that there would only be out of all the millions and millions and potentially billions of dollars in the Pokemon market, that there would only be $2,500 worth of interest in that card seems insane to me. Even with the stamp box like consideration and Twice Big Jake and Leonard and everybody making videos on it and it being a traditional Japanese, like I love that card. It's beautiful. It's a Rita art. Shouts out to Jake Smith. But even still, the fact that there would only be $2,500 worth of interest seems like, like that like does that ever grow to even $5,000 worth of interest, or is it just like it is what it is? Like, are people just is that card going to constantly sell at like $40 to $70 for till Pokemon's 30th year anniversary? Like, yeah,
And
I
then it
don't know.
might sell for less.
That's super. I mean, I'm just saying, dude. Like, I'm not doing it, but like the prices on a lot of stuff that I've been seeing, I'm like, this feel like if you believe in Pokemon as an investment, it's like, damn, man, like I don't
I,
know how much lower it can go than that. Like that's pretty crazy.
I think that Pokemon, I think it's pretty interesting because like I think younger Josh or more inexperienced Josh would probably have said that I don't think that Pokemon is obviously investable, but I think that now there's more obvious and less obvious things that would be investable than it would have been 2 to 3 years ago because of the nature of the market, what I've seen, what I've dealt in personally, and what I would feel comfortable dealing in the future. And so I think that the prices are low on some of these things, but I think they're low for a reason. I do think that we see increased interest at certain times in the hobby, and I think that certain things boom and bust at that point. But I don't think these things, since none of them are being played in decks, they're not really tied to playability or usability. It's all tied to the zeitgeist of like what's like people are talking about, and it's like what's cool at the moment, and what's cool changes constantly. I think that these things will fluctuate, but I do think that there are obvious things that feel like won't fluctuate as much. And I now feel more comfortable with some of those things than I would have before.
So I guess last question. So if you had like $50,000 to deploy buying cards like that on auction, like 40 to $80 range for similar cards like that with similar like pop reports and stuff like that. Do you think dropping 50 grand over the course of let's say 3 to 6 months on buying cards like that up to a certain point, do you think that that would push the market up? Like, do you think that there are enough people auctioning card? Like, first of all, like that's not a card you auction, but like, do you think that there's a lot of it is just people paper handing, and because the stuff is niche, less people have it like save search on eBay, that they're going for these low auction prices. But if you bought out the floor, like, do you think you could buy out the floor on stuff like that with like 50 grand? Or do you think that taking those copies off the market is not going to matter?
I think that the 3 people you'd be competing with for some of those cards, maybe 1 or 2 of those people, if they were a whale and they caught wind that you were actually going to buy out all of them and that is your goal, they might give you some, like, potential competition and may drive the market up a little. But I think the nature of the people who are going in for those types of cards and the nature of those types of cards, they know that there'll be another one that will wait, and until then, that PSA 9 that's $10 or $20 will fill in the hole and be fine for their collection. I don't think that it would be as much, like you said, urgency or FOMO that was like brought into the market just by buying the few cards that were out there that would move it in any particular way. So no, I don't think it would. Now I could be completely wrong on some of this though, because if you wanted to follow something that's very interesting as a narrative lately, the diamond and pearl era hollows that have been auctioning off lately on all these crazy auction sites, even PWCC Heritage, they've been going for record prices. And there have been some sales on diamond and pearl cards that have literally gone higher than even the pandemic, even
For
when diamond
English?
and pearl is popping off lately. And so that's really a good sign. And that shows that I feel like it directly goes against what I'm saying about that. And so I think that all it does take is a couple of whales that are competing against it to really drive a market up on something. And when you get a couple of those big comps in the books that are real comps, and then the market starts talking about it, then people who didn't care about these things before, the 2 to 3 people that were competing on these things, turns into 100 people that are competing on it, and then it really moves the market. Because if you have just a few people competing on something and then you add a whole bunch of new eyes to it because there's some crazy new sales popping off and people start seeing value in these things, then you start seeing the market move, and then it's way too late to get into it at that point. So, it's one of those situations. It's like hindsight's always 2020. You know what I mean? In 2020, and this is a great time to talk about this, you would have looked like the biggest genius in the world if you had any graded cards whatsoever in your inventory. PSA 6s, 7s, they were all selling for like premiums, more than what 10s sell now. But what you couldn't do was grade because they shut that shit down. So you had to have already had those cards in your possession to capitalize on it. Same thing as when some of these markets on really low pop cards, like these crazy Japanese low pop, Silvery Sky uh, hollows. If you wanted those and you needed them then, and everyone was talking about it and it was going up, good luck. Good fucking luck getting that card when you needed it. But when you don't need that card, when nobody's talking about it, sure, $40 all day long. So I don't know. Your question's a good one. Do I think that it could move the market if someone went in and started buying them all out? I personally don't think that, but I think that the evidence is showing that you could, because that's what's kind of happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be like something I just have to accept, moving forward, that like demand is never gonna shift. It just kind of like the market's flushed itself out, and it is what it is. And you might be totally right that like just no one cares. I think it's part of it might be too just because I don't really branch out into like normie Pokemon YouTube. And so I just figure that like everybody in the same sort of like investy Pokemon market space is like has the same sort of knowledge. And because of that, that's when it like, because I'm like, okay, well, if you include all the people from like all these different channels that all like whatever percentage of them are collectors, the fact that like something like that would only have $2,500 worth of like interest seems low considering like all the people in our like investy sort of space. But a lot of those people too might be like collecting just other stuff. They might be collecting the Sandbox promos and the Charizard EXs, and I honestly don't know. But yeah, it's just something I like. And again, like it's part of me is like the rational side of my brain is like this makes no sense, but the business side of my brain says it doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. Like you know what I mean? Like, because this is not like sitting and stressing over this or thinking about this or trying to get cute and invest or whatever. Like, that's not going to make you money. Like, what's going to make you money is to go with the market trends, give people what they want, even if it goes against like I said, the rational side of my brain. So sorry for the long-winded rant there, but just yeah, last night comping that card, it hit me right in the oof. I would have like honestly, I don't collect. I love that card. I would have bought that card for $50. I would have bought that card for 50, 100. If it was clean, like if I looked at the back and I didn't see whitening because I'm pretty picky about that, I would have bought that card 100%. Like I would have, you know.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about that Steelix that I had to let go, walk away from me at the last card show. Like, if it was just me, I would have bought that card for 150 bucks. You know what I mean? If I was just collecting cards, cool cards, like, because I can't even go buy a booster pack for $150, pull that hollow and grade it and get a 10. I can't do that. That's so that seems like a good deal, even if it's not like the Typhlosion T17 or the Lugia in the set. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, what are you doing? What's your goals? Are your goals to like make money and flip, or your goals to like have a cool collection and just have stuff that you like think is really cool and you got it a good deal and you're proud of? Like that's what that would be that in then my collection for that particular card. Or are your goals to invest long term and have it like grow over time, like, and just it's like what are your goals? And so that's all you always have to be thinking about.
Not enough collectors. There's a lot of because the other thing that kind of like I was like, damn. I mean, they were all listed for hire, but I want to say there's like 6 or 8 copies of that card listed in PSA 10. Like, there's a good amount of it listed, right? Even with it being like so low pop and all that stuff, it's like there's like 10 of them on eBay right now. So if your goal is to collect, like where are all these people that were like, if stuff goes to so cheap, I'm gonna come in because I'm just gonna there's so many collectors that'll just buy out the floor. Where are you? Where are you? Like I don't see you. I do
They're
not
working
see
at Wendy's,
any of you.
bro. They're
Like
working at Wendy's.
they are, dude, because it's like, oh, it's like where? Oh yeah, like vintage will never get this cheap because I'll just me and my friends will come in and buy it all. We're just such big. Where are you? If you're not buying PSA 10 cards for $30 and $40 of vintage, like where are like? It's just nuts to me, man. Like, yeah. Anyways, like we beat this to death. We can move on, but like it's a constant fight. It's a constant fight. And if I was a collector, if I was like 60-year-old retro, dummy rich, didn't care, I would be snapping things right now. If I was a collector, dog, I would be wailing right now. Like
But
so
what's
many
the
good buys.
point? If you're like on your deathbed and you're about to die, what's the point of like getting all these things that are
I
like
don't know.
cheap?
You spruce up the hospital room. You got some PSA 10s from Unseen Forces in there. Like you got complete sets of Mirage Forest and PSA 10. Like, anyways,
You should be selling, not buying if you're about to be on your deathbed. You should be cashing out so your family does an auction. You know what I mean?
yeah. If my family auctions and sends all my cards to Z, like our fortune will be forever ruined. So hopefully Dan's still around at that point.
Yeah. If I die, I'm just gonna leave a note that says, "Whatever you do, don't auction this."
Yeah, do not auction. Send to Dan. Buy it now consignment. Yeah. And then that'll be another thing Dan can add estate planning to his financial advisor suite of services. But all right, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Well, I guess one of the maybe just the potatoes because we've been talking for a minute. But what do you want to start this one off?
Yeah, so I went and made the thumbnail with AI for this particular talk because I wanted to kind of talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about this for the last couple of weeks, but it hasn't really come up in any particular fashion. I don't know what brought it up this particular time, but I do want to bring it out and kind of get just start the conversation a little bit because I do think in a lot of other areas, especially like with Hollywood and like with script writing, we talk about like the writers' strikes and stuff that was just happening because of AI and the use of it and the overuse of it. It led me to believe if like our hobby, our little place where we do most of our business is ripe for the picking for AI to come in and run rampant and cause a whole bunch of issues. And so I wanted to explore this concept with you a little bit, just maybe not with any particular thought in mind. Like there's nothing in the hobby that's happening right now with AI that made me think about the applications, but I wanted to maybe brainstorm with you and think about what you thought like would happen or could happen for the future of the hobby, or if I'm just being a boomer and saying AI and getting clicks by saying whatever's talking everyone's talking about. But what are your takes on all this? Because I think you have a little bit more knowledge about AI than I do, probably.
Yeah, so it's tough to sort of like give the human like the bull case on humanity without sounding a little uh I guess like having hubris. Like I don't want to sound like cocky or anything, but like the thing I will say, like I've seen people make like different AI tools to create eBay listings because people just want to be lazy and they're like, oh, well, I'll just put all the cert numbers and it'll automatically upload the photos and it'll pull titles and fill in items descriptive or specifics and things like that. All those suck. Like they're terrible. The titles are terrible. The item specifics are terrible. Like AI is not there yet. And honestly, the time it takes to use those tools is longer or the same amount as it just takes to like make your own good quality listing the first time. So I don't think like at least in the short or in an intermediate term that like an AI tool is going to come out that's just going to outcompete me making my own listings on eBay. As far as like what picking what cards to sell or grade or things like that, there's different sales data you can pull. I mean, TCG Player uh, drops something like every month where they send you an email that says here's the cards that are selling the most that are like understocked on our website. So if you have these cards, please list them on our website. Like you can use different data and things like that to be successful. But yeah, I mean, like, and again, like not to sound like hubris or cocky or whatever, but like just to sort of evaluate like what AI can and can't do. I bought these specific One Piece packs, right? Because I know that in these One Piece packs, they're like these vintage Japanese One Piece packs. I know that in the One Piece packs, you're guaranteed like the chase card, like one chase card, right? Per pack. And so I'm opening the pack to get the chase card. That's why I bought the pack. And so the value of the pack is priced in just in the one card that I'm hoping to get, then grade it and sell it on the market, right? But while I was going through the pack, I found a cool card that was not the chase card that was in there for free, but I thought had really cool art. And it was Luffy and Zoro, which are like two of the biggest characters on the card. And subjectively, I thought the art was sick. I was like, oh, this is a really cool card. I decided to grade that card, just like a common card, not what I bought the pack for. It's a pop one. I sold it within a week for like $110. And it was something I would have otherwise thrown in the trash. AI is not going to make that distinction. Like AI is going to throw that into the trash because AI is trained on like you open the pack to get this chase card. So we throw everything else. AI is not going to stop, subjectively think the art is cool and be like, you know what? I think someone would buy this if this was slapped and turn like a $15 grading fee into $110. Like you see what I'm saying? Like, so there's certain things like I feel like humanity still wins because so much of this hobby still relies on subjectivity, understanding like what people like, what arts are people going to think are cool, what Pokemon are cool, right? Like it's not all numbers right now. And I just don't think AI is at the point to where it can compete with us on the subjective human element. Um, and the last thing I'll say, I'm not a fan of AI grading. Like I'm just not. I think like humans should grade cards. part of what grading cards is eye appeal. I don't think you can train a machine on human eye appeal. So yeah, I guess that's all I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about grading, AI grading or robot grading in the hobby, which is that also kind of goes into this whole talk for sure. I think that's an element we could probably touch on. But I think this topic goes really deep because like I agree with some of what you said about AI not being able to compete with like the human ingenuity that comes along with the discovery of the hobby of like discovering how to make plays or find like cool cards that weren't thought about. And like I talk about Spiritomb all the time, the Spiritomb I grade, but it's like who the AI is not going to grade Spiritomb and sell it for $64, you know. That was purely a the genius, the mad genius that is the old card shop. But clearly though, there are some plays that are numbers based that aren't necessarily just discovery based or like something that you had to make up. And I think there's a lot of people in this hobby who operate solely based on those numbers based. Like if you have a comp, then they will grade it. But if there's no comp on the card and there's no margin that's already built in, they're not even going to look at it. So they're not even going to be discovering those. I think there are some applications that maybe, like you said, haven't been used yet or haven't been perfected that could very much so utilize that well-known margin of graded cards that you could scrape from eBay, scrape from TCG Fish, scrape from wherever these eBay, and even if it's not a complete cohesive list, like I think that's the benefit of having like a spreadsheet and being able to have the human eye that you are go in and check over it at the end and make decisions, the final yes and no. Because what I've found with AI and most of what I've seen with its applications within like the world, it isn't like a AI robot who does literally everything for you and you can just sit back and kind of go on easy mode. It's more like it's a tool and it makes it easier for you to sort of hone in on what you would have wanted that you couldn't have done before. So like for example, for the thumbnail, for my for this video and this thumbnail, I just put in like, you know, Pikachu flying or through the air or something like something weird like with Pokemon to put a to get the image. And if I would have spent a lot more time honing in and really going in and figuring it out, I could have like honed in on that image to a really detailed and exactly artist rendition of Pikachu doing what I want it to do. And I didn't have to pay an artist to do that. I didn't have to be artistically inclined per se. I just had to be able to lead it to that direction, right? So like while I couldn't just put in one word and it led me what I wanted, I had to kind of guide it there. It was like a step. And so in the same way, I think AI could be a tool or a stepping tool to be used in the hobby to find like the optimized grading or the optimized singles that are on TCG Player that, you know, are really low cost for a single for near mint cost but grade at a high percentage and give you a good margin. These things can easily be, I think, and then you don't have to like make it auto buy everything. You could go in and use that to your advantage. So I think there's some applications that haven't been seen that people are probably already doing with programs that AI could probably help code. And then there are also some things like with thumbnails and with backgrounds and with like those types of things that could be utilized for people like me who aren't very good at making thumbnails. But then that goes into sort of the thought of like the ethics behind it. It's like, well, that's taking away the job that someone could have that I would then potentially outsource to have someone make a thumbnail for me. And yeah, you could say like, yeah, you would have never done that anyway because I don't do that. I don't outsource my thumbnails. But if I was going to, well, now I'm certainly not going to because I have the ability to do it this way. And maybe those thumbnails that it's making are being scraped from online images that were, you know, that were copywritten, that were taken from artists who wanted them protected, who would not have consented to that being used. And maybe I don't even know about it, but my use of those AI images are somehow hurting someone else in the hobby in some way, shape, or form. And that's something that maybe I should consider. So, I mean, there's a lot that we can go into. So I'll stop ranting at this point and hear your take on it. But, like, I mean, what do you think about that? Like the ethics of using AI and those types of things?
I think like technology has just shown historically that like deflation increases productivity. So people are always worried like, oh, like technology gets rid of jobs, but now that we have the technology, a lot of those jobs are not jobs that anybody is interested in having, right? Like at a certain point, and in some states still, like Oregon, you have to like let somebody else pump your gas.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing, right? In my opinion, like it makes no sense. If we get to a point 10, 20 years from now where like a majority of cars on the road are electric, and maybe there's still like gas stations for trucks or semis, things like that, whatever. I don't know if it'll happen that fast, but like the point being, like, is anybody going to miss those jobs, or are they going to be on to other jobs? And so I think, you look at farming, all the technological advances that have happened in farming, and we have, population growth in the world year over year, and these people are fed, right? There's like way less world hunger and all this stuff than there was in like the 70s, right? Like you look at a lot of countries in the 70s and you're like, oh man, like those people, they couldn't even get food. And now these are like developed countries with like Wi-Fi and all this sort of stuff, right? So technology, deflation, all that stuff, like I generally think that it's positive for the economy. Like I think jobs that are lost in the short term will be made up because human productivity will be increased and people will, get funneled into different jobs. So it'll maybe like hurt a little bit up front, but people will pivot. And yeah, ultimately, like I think people's standard of living has just gone up and up and up over time. Um, right. So I mean, like even when we were kids, like having internet and having like internet that was good was like a luxury. Now, if like you don't have internet, you can't do anything, right? Like you need internet to like go to school, run a business, stay connected. Like if you're not online in America right now, it's like, what are you doing, right? And so even from when we were kids, like the standard of living is so much higher. Right? Like back then, like having a computer was a big deal. Now almost everybody has a supercomputer in their pocket that they can watch TV from, play games on, do research, run a business. Like, yeah, but back to the card thing. Like, people like Dan and Nick, like they have the card sorters and stuff like that. So there's definitely like applications for AI, especially at volume and things like that. And to your point about like pulling back end data from like TCG Player or TCG Fish, price raw versus price sold graded. You plug in numbers for fees and shipping, and then if it hits a certain threshold, it's a buy. I do that right now with like Excel. Could someone code like an AI bot to do that? Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not smart enough to do that. And maybe if they figure out how to do that, they can start out competing us. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. But I do still think that like people being creative and using technology, I don't know, man. Like to the whole point with reselling too, like you look at people like Tech and Sports, number one seller of men's clothing in the entire world. You look at his setup, it's so simple. It is not all these crazy gadgets and gizmos and a crazy workspace. He's got PVC hangers or PVC racks for all the clothes to be hung on, and he's got like plywood with carpet on it and lights and digital cameras from like 10 or 15 years ago is what he's using, and he's running this multi-million-dollar business, most successful seller of men's clothing in the entire world, number one in all these different categories. Who's competing with that dude? If AI could like compete, you know what I'm saying? Like if it was possible for AI to like compete, like they'd be doing it, but they can't. Like it takes a person to go to the thrift store to know that this brand, like, yeah, everybody knows Nike and Supreme is popping, but did you know that like Rhone, brand that probably nobody's ever heard of, has like an over 100% sell-through rate in 90 days and will make you a $20 profit on items that you can source for $3 and sell for 30? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's big rant, big rant. I'm ranting all over the place today, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm interested in is like some of what the difference between like the optimization you could get out of AI versus what you just have to do like manually, which this hobby is a lot of really, it's a lot of the feels, you know what I mean? It's a lot of like you gotta have to have a good feeling about it and you gotta trust your gut and you really do have to have a large base of knowledge that would be really difficult to really allow an AI or program into like a something that was just scraped off the internet. Um, as far as like applications, though, do you think that there's one aspect of the hobby that has more ability to utilize AI? Like
I
I
think
would
the art,
thumbnails.
yeah,
Yeah,
thumbnails for sure. Like art generation is so easy. It's literally seconds.
yeah,
Like you put in a prompt and depending on like what AI you're using, it's popping out like a fairly good usable image or thumbnail or whatever. Um, that to me is definitely like that's what I would be using it for. Like I probably will start doing like more AI generated thumbnails and AI generated because it's just easier. It's like I can't draw digital art to the level that I can just generate it with AI, right? Like create logos,
yeah,
pay somebody on Fiverr. It's like why? I can just type in a prompt and it'll just pump it out like instantly. Creating like logos for your brand, creating, different stuff for your packaging, all that sort of stuff. Totally huge boon to your business if you're using it in that sort of way for sure.
yeah. And do you see anything potentially being like a potential pitfall that you would want to avoid, or you'd think that the hobby should avoid, or is there nothing too obvious that you can think
Like
of?
I don't know. Like I watched that Pokemon Wonder video where he showed like somebody made some tool to like do AI to like upload your listings quickly or whatever, but like the listings were not good listings. Like they just weren't. And so like I think that to me is a pitfall is people thinking that they're gonna fall behind if they don't use AI. But it's like you just need to do like good work the first time the right way. It's like what are you saving? Like maybe you save 10 seconds or something to have a listing that isn't going to sell versus spending like the extra 10 seconds to do it right, have a proper title and have an item that's going to sell. Like to me it's like it's a I don't know. It's just it's a no brainer. And so like I'm not hating on him or whatever. Like I think it was a good video. I just like as an eBay seller, like I won't be using any of those tools because at least right now, like they just suck. Like they're not making quality listings. So yeah, that's what I think. And again, like AI is only as intelligent as the information, like the data set that it's trained off of, right? So like just saying AI is like a buzzword, but it's like the AI is good based on the information that it's trained off of. So yeah, I don't like if you're out there and you're like, I can't compete because I'm not using AI, that's just like not true. That's just not true. So
Yeah, I think that and the nature and with AI grading as well, is to kind of finish wrapping up around that. I do think that, like you said, the AI is only as good as what's being programmed for it. So it's still being programmed to see certain parameters and allow for certain things. It's not like a true objective, like there's still human interaction that goes into it. And this is, and from what I know about the robo grading company, there's still a human interaction that goes with that too. Like very minimal amount, but there's still some amount of programming, some amount of like human interaction that is involved with it. So I think to truly take like the human element out of it would be like you said earlier, a mistake. I think that an eye appeal is important for it, and I think that there's just certain things that like yeah, I don't think that machines can really replicate. And I think that this hobby being mostly art based, like primarily it's an art forward based hobby, like people care about how it looks subjectively. There's always arguments over what's better art wise, what should be, what shouldn't be, what prices would should be versus not, what the most popular card is. Like, oh, I love this card, but it's not the most popular one, and there's always that discussion. So
well,
I don't I don't think the grading should be you should take out the human element.
yeah, well, and to your point about like having to have the human knowledge of just like the market and things like that, if you actually look like in the broader like financial markets and when people talk about AI, some of the most valuable models that people are looking to invest in or companies that people think are actually going to benefit most from AI are not tech stocks. They're companies like Kroger who are like it's like how are you guys going to implement AI into making like peanut butter and mac and cheese?
Mm.
They don't have that sort of application. What they have is an insane data set on consumers. Like they know how much of all these different things like they have a crazy data set and that's valuable. And so that goes to the whole market knowledge thing, right? Because even if the AI pulls, okay, this card has a 70% 10 rate, and if you do the numbers on raw versus what it sells for graded, technically, like, when you do the math, you're coming out to making like this much money off of 100 cards. That is what the AI, but what the AI might not know is like, well, there's a ton of people making this play. So I actually can't expect these numbers because there's so many people making this play, but that by the time it gets back from PSA, these prices will have come down and it'll be way harder for me to sell. Or like, what is the sell through? Like, there's so many different things that people have to consider. What if it gets reprinted? Like, so if you just let a robot go and it buys 1,000 copies of this card because the numbers line up, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we've beat it to death, but and
Yeah,
I'm very tech bro. I'm very tech bro, crypto bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very bullish on AI. I'm invested in AI, like very bullish on it. But as a business owner, I'm not sweating it. So
no, and if we're missing something too, but if you're listening to this, you're like, you guys are idiots. You need to be doing this for your business. Like, if we should be doing something with AI that we're missing, please put it down below. Tell
yeah,
us.
let us know. Let us
We,
know. We'll join your
because
Patreon.
I just right now what I see is the biggest boon for the hobby for AI would be, I'd see it's more of a boon than a disaster. I would say it'd be the benefit to art and to using it for art purposes and for information or for entertainment purposes. But at the same time, you have the issues surrounding, like, does it start degrading the quality? Is it starting to make it not as good? Is it making us lazy? So these are all things to think about. But all right, for our last little segment here, we will finish off with, as usual, our invest, flip, or skip segment. This one's gonna be a fun one. We've been kind of going through the whole card theme lately, like the different types of cards you would rather have, because I think we're kind of exploring the would you rather sort of theme. And I am always curious of what you guys think down in the comments. And so please feel free to play along and tell us what you would do in this particular situation, because I think all three of these categories are very popular. They all have similar types of fundamentals and they appeal to different types of folks depending on who you are. But they appeal to somebody probably. So the three topics for Invest, Flip, or Skip are none other than the Neo Shinings, the Crystal Pokemon from the e-reader sets, and the Gold Star Pokemon from all the EX era, moving all the way to Power Keepers. So those are going to be our three little topic areas, and I want to let you take it away first on this one. What do you think about those?
All right, I'll try to be short because I've been pretty long winded today. But just going back to our talk on like demand, what people are gonna like, what's in the zeitgeist, what people are talking about. Gold stars seem to be pretty consistent. I feel like people are like always talking about uh, gold stars. Even if they are from a less popular era of Pokemon, like they're still selling for crazy prices every time they come up for auction. On one of the podcasts, we talked about that Latios for like, or maybe it was Latios, but one of the birds for like 30 bands or something like that, something crazy like that. So I think gold stars I would be like what I would invest in, just because for whatever reason that part of mid era has cemented itself as like grail cards of the hobby to so many different people. And they haven't really faded away. I never hear people talking about shinings or crystals anymore. Not to say they're not good cards. I just I don't think they're anywhere near as popular as gold stars. So I'd invest in gold stars. I'd probably flip. I'd probably flip Neo Shinings. I think they're cool. Um, I think that like certain ones will probably do well, but yeah, I don't know. Like I would probably have to flip those. And then I hate to say this because these are probably my favorite because especially in Japanese with the foiling that they have, but I have to skip crystals, man, because no one's talking about them. And to be honest, a majority of the Pokemon compared to like gold stars or maybe shinings are on the same level, but a lot of the crystals are mid Pokemon. It's like Golem and Crobat and Kabutops. Like cool, sick arts for sure. Kingdra, no one cares about those cards. You know what I mean? Like
Lugia, Charizard,
Lugia, Charizard, and
Ho-Oh,
Ho-Oh.
Celebi.
But that's the other ones are mid. And it's the same thing with Neo Shinings though. It's like you got your Charizard, and you got
They
the
loved Kabutops back then, didn't they?
yeah, they really like Kabutops for sure. But yeah, it's like Tyranitar's cool too, but it's like people mainly want like the Charizard and the Gyarados. I don't think people are like jumping out of bed to get a freaking Neo Shining Kabutops. It's sick, like
You're
it's a great
skipping
art.
crystals and you're investing gold stars
I'm
and you're
invested.
flipping
Look,
shiny.
I don't like it. I'm just going with the market. This is me going with the flow of the market. I don't like personally. I like the crystals the most. Like the Crystal Nido King. This is probably the best Nido King art. It's sick. I love that card. Do I think it's more investable than Gold Stars? Hell no. And it's actually more expensive right now than some Gold Stars. So I don't know. That's just it's. I don't like it. I don't like it. Like I'm saying this under duress, but that's where I'm at with it. So what about
So
you?
you
What
know
about
it's a
you?
good one. Um, I disagree with you. I disagree with you on almost all counts. Um,
Damn. Okay.
the Neo Shinings, first of all, are the very first ever Shining cards that they ever made, and they are also pretty rare in the boxes. Like you get like 2 per box, basically, maybe 3. Um, and they're sort of a difficult grade. Or not not the most difficult grade actually, because the texturing on them it makes them, but they also makes them harder to grade because sometimes it stamps through the card. So I think the populations on those are going to be naturally a little lower, and also since they're the first and they're from WotC, that's actually pretty to me, that sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty investable. Sounds like they're really undervalued because WotC is super undervalued in general. But out of all the cards from WotC, those are like the cards. Um, and then we go into the crystals.
The
Crystal,
Mewtwo's sick. The
yeah.
Mewtwo is like that's probably like the best Mew like, and especially the missing foil where he looks like a ninja. You know what I'm talking about? Where like half his face is cut off and it's like got the black of like that. Yeah, fire. Super cool.
And like the just the whole it was the first ever time that they did something like that in the boxes, like secret rare kind of crazy of shiny. You could only put one in your deck. It had texture on it, like unlike the other ones. It's like super iconic. Like I still to this day remember finding my shining Magikarp in my binder that I had that I'd forgotten. It was tucked behind my regular Magikarps because I didn't know what shinings were, and it didn't mean anything to me when I was a kid. So I think they're really cool. The shinings are crystals. I didn't know about until
Wait,
I
so
got
you're
back.
investing in Shinings real quick?
I haven't decided yet. I
Oh,
haven't.
okay.
I gotta at least break it down a little bit. The crystals I didn't know about until I got back in the hobby in 2019. But the first thing that I learned about the crystals and the gold stars around the same time. And honestly, the gold stars I could care fucking less about. I didn't care about the gold stars because I thought the art was sort of like they're all like like up on the card, coming out of the card. It's like the prime cards kind of. It's like it's cool. It's good. I love gold stars now, but when my first impression of them, mid, in my opinion, mid. And so, like, out of crystals and gold stars, like, to me, even though I think that gold stars might be a little harder to pull, it's 1 out of 3 boxes, or 1 out of 2 boxes or something, whatever the gold star rate is. Whereas crystals, you get 1 per box, and you get a reverse too. I do think that because the print was lower in the e-reader era and everything that goes along with the whole e-reader era in general and that era of Pokemon, what I know about it from my insider information about short print run and all that, and how hard in the box price is, I'm investing in crystals. And then gold stars, while I think are really cool and they have a larger run, and I think that there's more people now that are into them and they're talked about a lot more and they're like iconic. I could honestly skip them. So I think just skipping gold stars is where I'm going to have to be with the skipping. Investing in the crystals because I know too much about the print run of them and I know how hard they are to like pull and how valuable they are and how cool they are and how they've never done anything like it. There's shining Pokemon in every 10 sets there's another shining set. Whereas there's never been more crystals that they made. So crystals, and it's also they'll never make that card design because they can't because of the era it came from and it's Wizards of the Coast and all this stuff. So I'm investing crystals, honestly. And then Neo Shinings, I'm flipping them, baby. I guess they're easy grades. There's more of them out there. You get more per box. They are the first thing. I love them, but they're not as rare as gold stars. They're not as rare as crystals. They're more available. I would feel better about flipping them because I see them more often coming up. And honestly, on in any grade, those Neo Shinings are fantastic. 1 through 10 doesn't matter, or even raw. They're all fit, and that goes for all these cards. Honestly, the gold stars, the shinings, and the crystals, they're all good in whatever condition. But yeah, I guess that's my answer. I'm investing in crystals. I'm skipping gold stars, and I am flipping neo shinings.
I like the take on the crystals with the boxes being more expensive and harder to find. Like e-reader stuff is in both languages really tough to find. That was like my first big like collector boy investor. Like it was the Japanese e-series stuff. I went pretty hard on that, but I don't disagree with you. It's just like I'm just with the market at this point. It might change. It might. Like I just people are just so hyped on the gold stars. It's nuts. So I don't.
Yeah, and that's true. And
We'll see.
I'm
We'll see.
wrong. I'm going against the market on this one, so I will agree that I think your take is more accurate to what the market would feel. I think, yeah.
Which is weird because again, like nothing. Well, very few other things, unless they're English and just have the conditional rarity. Very few other things in mid era have any value at all. But the gold stars stonks. Whereas like E series, a lot of stuff has value in E series. A lot of stuff has value in Neo. But like nothing else in mid era outside of like some low pop like level X's or Japanese promos, like nothing in mid era really has a lot of value, which is kind of nuts. So yeah, I don't know. Weird how that but mid era boxes are probably pretty hard to find too.
They are.
Like
They're very hard.
I don't think you're finding a whole lot of like the Delta species stuff and um, yeah. So
Yeah, it's
good one.
equally hard to find an EXT Oxys box and equally as expensive as it is to get any of the e-reader boxes, I would say.
Yeah. Forgot about Rayquaza out of the Deoxys. There's a cool Jirachi hollow that Kazuki does that's in that set too that I really like. But yeah. Anyways, all right. So yeah, what was it? Muffin Swagger will be reaching out to you and putting your name in the comments. I'll reach out and try to get a hold of you so we can get the mystery box out. I think we're going to try to do one more podcast next week, probably live on my channel before I go to Hawaii. And then next Friday, I'm having a guest on my channel, and I'll just say it will be a blast from the past for a lot of people. Like I think if you've been here since the boom and stuff, you'll be like, "Whoa, I have not heard from that guy in a minute." So hopefully people will think that that's entertaining. We'll see how it goes. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, with that being said, I won't spoil the surprise. I'm excited for that stream, but you guys all get excited. Go sub to my co-hosts, Retrospects, because our podcast is going to be on his channel next week. We're going to go back and forth like we've been doing. And we will see you guys on the next one. Leave a comment down below for what you'd like to see for Invest, Flip, or Skip next week. If you want to see us kind of depart from the whole card, or if we don't, pick what you want. So yeah, leave us some suggestions down below. And
Dan's
yeah,
gonna comment like turkey, beef, or pork or something
yeah,
like that.
yes, and go watch the moon landing. I've been told. Apparently, we're first time in many years we're landing on the moon. I guess I'm being
Is
told.
it Elon? Did Elon put somebody on the moon?
I don't know if it's Elon or who, but somebody's on the moon. Yeah.
All
No,
right.
it's
Well,
unmanned apparently. So
oh,
I'm being fed this in real time. So if you hear someone in the background, that's what that is.
they didn't even send any Pokemon cards. Like, what are they doing? Metazoo got to the moon, right? So since Pokemon up there, what are we doing?
I don't even know if the moon really exists or anything. But that being said,
All right, yeah, we're cutting it
podcast
there.
there. We'll see you guys on the next one. Catch you next time.
Adios, folks.